The light force of your bond. A power like life itself. Unseen for generations. A dyad in the force.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of DYAD in the Force, episode 246, the one about exposing the downfall, or who's to blame for the downfall of the Jedi once and for all. This is a conversation we've had since time immemorial, but if you watch our latest reaction, there are some people out there, namely that creator, who thinks it's all Mace Windu's fault. And I'm not being exaggerating, or I'm not exaggerating. They put parentheses, not Palpatine. And then on that video, we got a request from a community member to react to Generation Tech's newest video, The Overlooked Reason Why the Jedi Failed. So we're going to react to that live and see.
Oh, that's from Generation Tech? Interesting.
Yeah, it's I don't think the title implies anything, and the thumbnail certainly wasn't Mace. So we're gonna react to it live with you guys.
The thumbnail was Qui-Gon, which, you know, a lot of people. I mean, who knows? We might fully agree with everything that's stated. You know, I mean, if they're saying like the overlooked reason is that, you know, by having Qui-Gon out of the picture, they didn't keep Anakin separated from Palpatine. You know, yeah, I think that's an argument that could be made.
I do hold some
always
of
good
that sentiment.
faith. I'm always going to go with good faith and see what is said.
Let's see here. Well, before we begin, how's it going, Choco?
I'm doing good. Busy day, or busy week of work, and also I started doing morning workouts before going in, and I am sore as hell. Oh my god, I forgot. I tried going in like I used to lift.
You're
Because it's
smarter
so
than that.
hard. I mean, I didn't go full on what I listen. I used to. I used to be capable of two-hour workouts per day. Is what I would do, but still, it's still gauging. I still have no idea how strong I am or any of that stuff. I ended up showing up at work super early because by the end I was like, I can't go on. But my gym is literally right next to where I work. Like when I come out the door, the first building I see, it's across the field, but the first building is the gym. So
That's convenient.
Yeah.
At least you don't have to travel far, or you know.
and once it builds into a habit, it's gonna be like almost offensive if I don't go. You know what I mean?
That was almost New November. He said, once it builds into a hobbit. I'd love to see it once it builds into a hobbit, what it looks like.
It just might. Harry feet and all.
Shout out to Craig McGuinn, who says, although I do understand that many people in the Star Wars fan base put too much of the blame on Mace Windu, it's also important to not pretend like Mace is completely exempt from blame. And this is part of the nuance of our conversation every single time we talk about it. It's the Jedi Order isn't blameless. You know, they were complicit in this regard, but we're talking about who you want to blame completely, you know.
I mean, I will say that Mace Windu is not to blame for Anakin specifically. He's part of the system,
Yes.
of the Jedi, but like the thought process that he even interacts with Mace Windu, that Anakin interacts with Mace Windu enough to affect him, is really insulting to Anakin. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I would say there is some part of me that like wishes Mace in those meetings in Palpatine's office would just be like, I feel like you're the Sith. Just like one of those, you know, one of those like what ifs. Like, just imagine if like in that scene where Palpatine's like, I will not let Republic full. It will not come to war. And Mace and Yoda look at each other, and they're just like, this feels Sithy.
By the way, that was one of the most frustrating things about that video. You'll see if you watch our reaction. But, like, the person was like, it's Mace Windu's fault because he was too slow to act when the whole galaxy was on the line. And it's like, because he was doing due process and, like, gathering evidence. And, of course, he was the closest person to figuring it out and the person to actually trying to end it. And then when he does try to end it, person's like, see, that's why it's his fault. It's because he's rushing to end it. And then you're like, you can't say both of those things. That is dumb.
He's acting too slow when the galaxy is under threat. But when it comes to Anakin, he's acting too fast. And that's the thing. A lot of the Anakin glazers, I'll say, because you know, I'm a fan of Anakin too, but the Anakin glazers who
I
like
love
to,
Anakin.
Yeah, they like to, like, I suppose, absolve Anakin of any of wrongdoing or incorrect choices. It always comes down to, like, this wouldn't have happened if they treated Anakin better. Like, that's what it comes down to. That's the bottom line on most of their arguments. Like, so you want everyone to just treat Anakin like the special boy.
And that's why we end up with school shooters.
And that's the thing too, because, like, none of these Jedi are watching the movies with us. They don't know his future. And he's another student in the Order. Granted, you know, Qui-Gon Jinn hyped him up to be the chosen one. They still doesn't, like, the Jedi Order is not going to be like, okay, everyone. I mean, you can read in the books that, like, Anakin feels like he's semi-ostracized because of that label. But that's his insecurities. The Jedi Order doesn't treat him differently.
Yeah. The Order doesn't treat him differently. There was a panel where some kids were making fun of him in Anakin and Obi-Wan, the comic. But those kids were reprimanded pretty quickly. But I feel like people point to that. But, like, I got made fun of for when I was a kid. And for, like, majorly racist things. I didn't turn out to commit genocide. You know what I mean? Like, it's not an excuse. They can't say they made fun of him as a kid. So him being the right hand of Palpatine for 20 years and killing everyone, it makes sense. Like, no. Shout out to the Time Trav in the chat. Travis, I apologize. We were doing that reaction video and it was so bad and it was so wrong that it took a really long time.
It took the wind out of our sails, honestly.
And so we didn't make it to your fanfic, but that's the next thing that's on the docket.
What's the name of the main character of Dragon Prince again? The High Mage again? It's like he did the spell and took the wind.
Fulminus.
What's his name? I keep thinking in my head Coleman.
I mean, I can only think of Ezrin, and it's the other guy.
Ezrin's my favorite. Ezrin's a smart little boy. Like, he often
Ezrin
is the voice of
to
reason.
Be king. He's like, what the hell are you guys doing?
Callum. That's right, Lord Goob.
Callum.
That's right. But yeah.
DJ Callum.
Another.
Let's see. This wouldn't have happened if Mace Windu had taken Anakin as a Padawan after Qui-Gon died. I personally agree with that, but you know, what happens to Anakin in that situation remains to be seen. You know, Anakin by himself started practicing the principles of Vapad. But you know, it being such a two-edged sword, I don't know that he could have handled it. But the only chance he would have had to handle something like that would be with Mace Windu's guidance. I don't know. I do feel like Mace would slap the crap out of him.
Yeah,
I think it would either, in my opinion, it would either work and he'd be responsible, or it wouldn't work and he would leave the Jedi. The galaxy would be better off either way.
I have a feeling when it comes to like when it comes to like assessing how dangerous of a form of a pod is, and I've recently changed my tune because, you know, I was re-listening to Glass Abyss, and I know we don't base these things on how audiobook voice actors say things, but he says Vapod, so whatever. I say Vapad because the double A is in the first syllable, but we often look at the danger of that form in the context of how Anakin acts in the prequels. But it's interesting to think about a what if scenario where he had been brought up under the tutelage of Mace, that he could have handled it and he could have built up the discipline to handle it, right? Obviously, the way he acts with Padme and in the prequels and just like, it's unfair, like that person does not handle Vapod very well.
No.
But if he has the training from the beginning, it might be different. I like to say that like the statement "this wouldn't have happened" is very premature. I would say that definitely things would have been different if Mace Windu. But again, Mace Windu would have had to leave the council to take a Padawan. And that also changes things, right? Because he's also part of the vote that kind of like decides how things play out during the prequels. Yeah. That's an interesting question to ask. How different do you think things how different do you think things play out if Mace leaves the council, absconds the votes and everything else, and trains Anakin?
Yeah, I mean, because then the question becomes who replaces them on the council when they make the decisions. What input does that person have? You know, yeah, there's a lot of differences that could make. Craig McQuinn says Anakin became that person you're referring to as a result of Anakin's training. Maybe. But again, that remains to be seen. And because a lot of his personality was already formed before, you know, that spunky, plucky kid, you know, was already there, you know, prior to Obi-Wan. And then obviously at some point, you know, Anakin becomes a knight, and then he's no longer under Obi-Wan. So yes, I mean, obviously Obi-Wan's training would absolutely, you know, change and shape him, but it's not going to be the entire makeup of who he is what I'm trying to say.
Also, I don't think Kit Fisto is on the council until Revenge, right? And he loses Nadar during the Clone Wars, because I don't see Kit Fisto on the council during Attack of the Clones.
No, he wasn't. What do you think would have?
Go for it.
Good. Darth Angel asks, what do you think would have happened if Mace defeated Palpatine? I think Dave Filoni kind of alluded to this, that was essentially Mace falling on his own sword, because he would absolutely be tried and executed by the Republic. Because, like, yeah, they know that that Palpatine turned into a monster and started doing psycho crushers with his lightsaber and cackling like a maniac, shooting lightning out of his fingers. But no one else would have known that. So for them, this one Jedi Master would have went and just assassinated, you know, the Chancellor, who was quote unquote beloved. And so, yeah, he would absolutely be tried, put in prison, if not executed. And they would have to figure things out from there. But at that point, you would not have a Sith Lord controlling both sides of the war. And by that time, you know, I mean, the Separatist Council was still out there, but they were completely, everything they did was at the behest directly of Palpatine, so they would have just fallen apart. They would have just been trapped on Mustafar. I don't even think they would have known what to do.
I think it would be pretty easy to absolve Mace, though. Or is the question defeated Palpatine and then tried him? Or just defeated Palpatine?
I mean, just defeated Palpatine. I mean, sure, he could probably run out of the room, but there would be a lot of lightsaber marks and stuff. I don't know.
No, I think it would be pretty easy because at that point, Palpatine has not enacted Order 66. All of the clones are, within their right mind, and there was already, given Clone Wars episode, I forget which episode, there's already a lot of doubt about the clones and their malfunctioning. So the investigation would go on without a hitch into the inhibitor chips. So I suppose a lot of the subterfuge would come to light, and I don't think
it would come to light eventually. But I think there would be a lot of immediate shock and partisan dealings because of a Jedi assassinating the Chancellor. That's what I mean.
Also, Craig, Order 66 doesn't happen because Masameda executes it. It has to be Palpatine. It has to be the Chancellor. Now we don't have the full whatever the order is in canon because it's a Legends things, but if we go off of Legends, that order has to be executed by the Supreme Chancellor. And in Legends, there was an Order 65 that would have allowed him to turn the clones against the Chancellor had Palpatine not been the Chancellor. So it was all dependent on whether he had those powers to begin with.
And Time Trap says there's a lot of nuance in Star Wars. Obi-Wan said only Siths deal in absolutes. But of course, when he says only Siths deal in absolutes, that was a direct reference to Bush saying, if you're not with us, you're against us, in regards to his thoughts on the war. Dealing in absolutes doesn't mean you can't say a statement like as if it is a fact or with confidence. That means to put something in a position where opposing it is if you I demand absolute loyalty, otherwise you're a traitor and you should be killed. That's literally what Anakin was saying in that moment. If you're not with me, then you're my enemy, and he's going to try and kill him, when obviously Obi-Wan is his friend and mentor, and he wants him to calm down. That's what dealing in absolutes is.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that think that Obi-Wan saying only a Sith deals in absolutes is an absolute, but they don't understand what an absolute is. That is a declarative statement for sure, but like Choco said, an absolute is to
it's dealing in absolutes.
Well, the phrase if you're not with me, then you're my enemy is an absolute, in that it discounts or disregards any other option. Right? If you're for example, if I'm not with Anakin, I can also not be his enemy too. I'm just not with him. But his absolute is that if you're not with me, then you're this. Obi-Wan is just saying that's an absolute, and Sith oftentimes.
Hey, what's up, Faith Maximum?
Dealing them.
Faith Revan Maximum. Uh-oh, we got an upgrade.
Isn't it always been Faith Revan Maximum?
Has it?
What was it last time?
Well, once you're friends with someone, like their name changes for you, and then I just sometimes don't remember what it was.
Faith Droid Maximum. Maybe,
okay.
maybe it could upgrade to that. Element, you're not accounted for order 99, which is the order that automatically shuts down the separatist droids. But what does that have to do with anything that we're discussing? If Palpatine is eliminated and there's no more Sith to manipulate both sides, then they can capture Grievous. No, Grievous was defeated actually by Obi-Wan. Never mind, in that movie. So, I
don't know. I'm all about the order number 6, which I believe is a Western bacon cheeseburger combo. I don't know if that's actually it.
Could just go with order 1, which is the Big Mac. Can't go wrong. That's always one.
Well, I do always go with order 1, which is the combination pho.
Full of
get
duck
all the
bit.
stuff in there. Sometimes you want to mix it up, get a little tripe in there, little rare steak.
Yeah.
Those Kaminoans, they make a mean bacon cheeseburger combo. I like how that's both Dex, but it's also Pulp Fiction. Makes me.
That's a good pull, Nemo. VGC says Padme wasn't with Anakin, but his absolute was that she was against him, and that's what led to the choking.
And then he tried to kill her. Yeah.
She wasn't with Anakin because he was going down a path she couldn't follow. But that doesn't mean she was gonna fight him as his enemy. That's what the absolute was. Anyways, let's move on to the mixer. We're having fun with the chat. What do you guys got for us? Are we talking about fast food and Star Wars?
Yeah. What are you guys into? Also to something Trav said earlier. No, we're definitely gonna make time to watch it because I have been excited to watch it. But yeah.
The Separatists had essentially crumbled by the time Anakin turns. Only political leaders left. And that's the thing, right? Things were coming to a head when Grievous was defeated by Obi-Wan.
Had the Separatists crumbled?
Well,
because I don't think that was true.
So Obi-Wan defeats Grievous, and Luminara had pushed back the droids on Kashyyyk, and like if we go off what happens in the books and what happens in the movie during Order 66, things are they're pushing them back.
Okay,
Like
that's true. That is
pushing. True. Kashyyyk Kashyyyk is almost won. I think.
Okay. You're definitely right. Those battles are all tipping towards the Republic. My thing is, I just don't. I'm just one of those weird people that I'm like, yes, all of those battles could be won, but that doesn't give me a holistic picture of the war. But that's me being super pedantic, like unnecessarily so. So I apologize.
but also, like a lot of the leadership hinged on like Grievous and Dooku, right? And so both of them in that movie were taken out, and the only one that was driving it that was left was Palpatine. Also,
the war would have been done for sure.
I also think that in Aayla Secura's case, it looks like she's just like walking around and then she gets 66th, but without 66, I think she's just walking around because they won. You know what I mean? I think everyone's dead, where the droids are all dead, and she's just like, ha 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 ha. I guess that's it for us on Felucia, you know?
And then they're like, get her!
I thought we were done. But yeah, I think with
Yeah,
the defeat of Palpatine, Dooku, and Grievous, the wars, at least the current battles that are being fought, go to the Republic, and then the Senate would have to order an armistice of some kind.
Yeah, I guess again, it's just me being pedantic, so I do apologize. Just the way I see it in my mind, which is not saying this is correct or absolute or anything like that, but Palpatine was the only thing propping up the war, and I mean that on both sides. Everyone wanted peace. Everyone wanted to come together and meet, and it was literally Palpatine constantly throwing a monkey wrench in all of those. So like, I hesitate to say anyone wins or loses. I feel like he dies, and then they're like, "Hey, you want to talk?" And they're like, "Sure." This is bad, huh? Yeah, this sucks. You want to do something different? Cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Also,
I guess that is a win, but I don't know how it shakes out.
Also, I think if I remember the dialogue correctly in Revenge, when they're on Mustafar, the leaders of the Trade Federation, they're ready to surrender. Because I think they were told by Palpatine, as Sidious, like, the war's over. Like, go here and wait.
Yeah. You guys come together, wait for me.
And then VGC says, God forbid a girl wants to have a nice walk after battle. I mean, I don't know if George is the one that directed that, but like, imagine the pitch meetings. Like, all right, what's happening when Order 66 occurs for Aayla Secura?
Bukkake.
Oh. I wish people would stop using...
Am I wrong?
I wish people would stop using that in an innuendo sort of way.
In your endo.
Exactly. Because bukkake just means to pour over, and it's an actual dish in Japan.
Yeah, she was poured over with bullets. With blaster fire.
Don't Trandoshans make pancakes in Star Wars? Not fast food, but close. Hey, pancakes can be fast food. You know?
Okay, listen. Here's my question. How come no one makes like just a pancake roll that just has like eggs and sausage in it? It's like a just rolled pancake, egg, sausage. You eat it like a little burrito.
That's a crepe, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, you could take the crepes and put the Nutella and the strawberry away and put the sausage and the egg and do it like that. I've actually had breakfast crepes. So it is.
Yeah.
Like that.
I mean, I was still imagining the thickness still of a pancake, but yeah, we can thin it out a little bit. Might be easier.
It would be it would definitely be on the heavier side, but that wouldn't be. That's like a McGriddle, actually. A McGriddle burrito. Oh my gosh, patent pending. Let's see here. Marcus Briggs says, "Who's y'all's fan cast for Admiral Aralani?" That's a thinker. I think I had picks before, but now I just every time I'm asked a casting question, if I do not have a number one pick, it's always like something that is malleable. I was like, who am I thinking of at this time? Rebecca Ferguson? I can see that.
Alicia Vikander. I just need someone that looks very European. You know what I mean? Like give me the
yeah, but Vikander seems like
she's little. She's little, but she's mighty. Okay.
Mighty Mouse. Let's remove Cate Blanchett from the conversation, because I know a lot of people just like default to Cate Blanchett for like tall and authoritative women.
No, but you know how Lars, all the Mickelsons are just have that very European look, you know.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I'm imagining, not that everyone has to have that. I'm just imagining something in that vein.
Actually, Catherine Winnick, my pick for my original pick for Captain Marvel. Do you know how she looks?
No. Catherine Winnick. Okay. Yeah, I can see. But can she command a room?
She can, because she plays Lagertha in Vikings. So if you type in Lagertha with Catherine Winnick, you'll see her pictures as a shield maiden.
Yeah, no, I do see that.
And that is our line.
I'm into it.
For sure. I could see Jennifer Connelly as her. Phineas, Liv Tyler. Guys, what is this, 2001? I don't know if I see Liv Tyler. Liv Tyler's soft. You know what I mean? Or Alani ain't young. No, I'm talking about like your casting choices like are from like 2001, like Liv Tyler, Lord of the Rings, Armageddon, Jennifer Connelly, Hulk.
Rose Leslie.
Yeah, I can see that too. You know nothing, Jon Snow. You know nothing, Thrawn.
Let's see here.
Palpatine told Anakin on Mustafar to transmit the following message to the ships of the Trade Federation. All droid units must be shut down immediately, so there's no way the Trade Federation leaders were on Mustafar. They were literally on Mustafar. Craig. That's who Anakin assassinates on Mustafar. Just because
you know nothing. How would you say that?
just because they're transmitting messages to ships in the Trade Federation, because there are other people, other commanders and stuff, doesn't mean that the leaders are there. You know nothing, Mithron. Nurudo. I don't know, it's weird. I default to an Australian accent. You know nothing, Mithrarn. Neuroder. Neuroder. Duarna your duo. But then why would Anakin have to transmit Palpatine's message while Anakin is on Mustafar if the leaders were already there? Because the leaders would have been dead. And the CIS was told that their leaders would be escorted to Mustafar. So their message would come from there. I'm also thinking about Pharaoh. How is Commander Pharaoh described?
I can't remember. It's been a while since I've revisited him. I've been spending too much time in ancient China.
Dun, 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 dun. I'm gonna start playing the Guqing. I just have this this vague image of what Commander Pharaoh looks like. I'm picturing either like a pixie cut or a bob, brown hair. I kind of feel like making everyone mad and casting Brie Larson.
All right, but I want Phoebe Waller-Bridge for Wootro.
Actually, no, Anna de Armas. Now that I think about it, like kind of fits my mental image of Pharaoh. Also, we need another Latina in Star Wars that I can.
Calm down.
Ships of the Trade Federation has probs a bunch of tactical droids. Kalani talks about getting that order. Kalani. Didn't Pharaoh just have short hair? I don't remember any other descriptor. See, I think, yeah, that's what I remember. That I can what? Be a fan of course. Jeez, you guys are dirty. This is the gutter. Everyone's in it. Now you guys got to get your minds out of it. I'm just kidding. I'm in the gutter with you guys too. But yeah, the leaders were on Mustafar. That's in the movie. We're not going to belabor this point. Let's see here.
Yeah, I mean, like, the leaders of the Trade Federation were the Nemoidians, and they were absolutely on Mustafar. So I don't know the argument, but you definitely see Newt Gunray and Rune Hako there.
Yes. And by that time, Dooku and Grievous were also dead. So that's pretty much all of them.
You're telling me Lot Dodd wasn't on vacation?
Lot Dodd sounds like he would sell OxyClean.
Lot Dodd sounds like a vaguely gelatinous like snack.
There you go, Dylan with the quote. Please, the war is over. Sidious promised us peace. Where are the droidekas? Yeah, man, haven't you learned not to challenge us on lore? Jeez, just kidding. Thanks for coming in clutch, Dylan. I did remember some dialogue from the movie being like, the war's over. Like,
Yeah.
And they were
Welcome,
on their back foot
Lord
anyway.
Vader. We've been expecting you.
Weren't we talking about Star Wars fast food?
Have you guys been reading Master of Evil? Only a bit into it, but I'm liking it. No, I have it. I was planning to start it today, but then I started watching Trillionaire Game.
Oh, wow.
It was a good show.
You're a bit late to that, huh?
I mean, the show came out last year, right?
This year, a couple months ago. More than a couple months ago. It's so weird that we're so late in 25 that shows that came out like in January and February feels like last year already.
Yeah, that's for different reasons. This year has felt really long. Okay, let's see. You've fallen off Master of Evil a little bit. You weren't feeling it. Okay. I'll take that. Oh, Gage. You were saying something in the comments on my video about attachment. What was it? What were we? It sounded like you wanted to specifically talk about something, and I was about the Jedi and relationships. Am I misreading bit.
Goob says he's listening to it in work, but reading The Last Order when he has time. The Last Order.
The Last Order.
Starring Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I mean, I can picture the title of that book, like the cover page, but I'm trying to remember what it was.
Here's Gage.
Yeah, I said Kanan followed the Jedi ideals of the Order, and I mentioned the furthest state allows what Rael was doing, but not what Kanan had with Hera. Okay, yeah. So here's one thing I was kind of thinking is that we have two different things, right? We have both what the principle is, and then we have what they would and wouldn't frown upon, right? Mm-hmm. And those things are two different things. So the example I always give is like, if say being a Jedi makes you predisposed to alcoholism. Some people may deal with that by not drinking. Some may not go near a bar. Oh, is there alcohol at that event? Then I'm not even going. I don't even want to chance it. Some might drink occasionally, or just, on certain things. Some might drink on a regular basis. They would frown upon that because you could fall very easily into alcoholism. But that doesn't mean that you would or have, right? But it would be frowned upon. So what I'm saying is that Kanan didn't compromise any of the ideals of the Jedi. Even with his love for Hera, he never put that above his duty as a Jedi. He was always able to let go. And there was times where it would affect his judgment, which is true, but he knew that it would affect his judgment, and he removed himself from those situations, right? That's why he had Ezra plan her rescue, because he knew that he couldn't separate himself from losing himself to the desired outcome, right? And so that all falls under the purview of non-attachment, the belief in non-attachment.
You also have to consider that what the Jedi allow or disallow is a very nebulous web. So Anakin says plainly and clearly, it's not the Jedi way to kill the unarmed. He executes Dooku. Nothing really happens. If we go off of Legends,
but the Jedi are so strict and dogmatic. You can't step out of line, or else they do nothing. They don't. Prosit Dibs tried to kill Mace Windu, and they were like, "You gotta stay in the library for a bit."
Satele had a relationship with a Republic trooper. I mean,
yeah, there was another Jedi.
She had to, give away her baby. But that wasn't something that the Jedi decreed. That was something that she saw in herself that would be I suppose not a dangerous attachment, but it would be an attachment that would cloud her judgment, especially as a Grandmaster. I mean, she wasn't Grandmaster back then, by that time, but
one of the things I don't quite understand about the way people feel about non-attachment is and this is something that Master Allen commented on the video, is he said, if there's a politician, we want them to choose in the best interest of the people they serve, not in the best interest of his personal family, right? If a politician could choose to bring back someone that they loved, but 1 billion people would die, we would want them to say, sorry, we'll keep the people alive, and if you weren't able to make that decision, we would say you probably shouldn't be a politician, right? That's just the same thing.
Also, strictly speaking of Jedi Order policies and I suppose the company culture, for lack of a better term, masters could do whatever they want outside of falling to the dark side. Like, I forget which book it's in. It's a canon source book. It describes knights as the first step of making your own decisions, and masters typically they don't really have to answer to the council. You know, no one is ever suspended or expelled for disobeying orders. Dooku disobeyed orders by not reporting back to the council. Elzar and Avar, they make public their relationship with each other
While Elzar is on the council.
And the only thing that they have to declare to each other is when it comes to their duty as a Jedi, that comes first. And then before that, you know, Elzar has a bunch of, you know, there's a lot of examples of people as masters.
As you say, Qui-Gon defies them all the time and never got kicked. More than that, they said, hey, you should join the council. You know, they actually liked him. Not only that, but
they invited him because he went against them.
Yeah, but I love that the recent book that came out, because Qui-Gon calls them all out, and he's like, "You guys aren't spending enough time with the people you're supposed to serve," and they're like, "Yeah, he's right. Let's do that." Like, it's, I don't know. I feel like people.
I think it was Yariel Poof that said he has a point.
He has a point. That voice is one that you can't do without like bouncing up and down.
Vote on this matter, we must. Oh, I just spoke as Yoda with Yariel's voice. The Jedi don't use email because they can't have attachments. There's emails without attachments. They certainly don't use it to send things, for sure.
Didn't he still not get on the council due to Obi-Wan and partial his defiance? No, he chose to stay Obi-Wan's master.
Yeah.
Because, like, when you're on the council, you're not supposed to take a Padawan, at least not for a very long time, because there's no way for you to balance both things, right? To take care of this person and raise them while having to make all these decisions for the entire order. So yeah, that's he would have had to step down or relinquish Obi-Wan to take the seat.
All he would need to do, all he'd need to be, is the Grand Master. Because the Grand Master title is such a title of veneration that you can do whatever you want. Like, Yoda would sometimes take on Padawans, but that's because his title is not one of function. You know, Mace Windu was the Master of the Order, so he was the head of the council and, you know, delivered their voting results and stuff. It was very, very kind of like administrative. But yeah. Like, as the Grand Master, Yoda would go to far off planets and help cultures for like years on end, and then he would take a Padawan and be like, okay, and then after that he just come back.
He's like the company founder that they keep on the board, and he just like advises sometimes. I think they were more open to it in the High Republic and got more strict in the prequels, especially with how Obi-Wan handled Satine thing, saying that he would have had to leave the order. Well, him having to leave the order is, I mean, that's still that never changed. You know, we still have the example of in Midnight Horizon of I want to keep when I say Kynark, but that's not who it is.
Cantum Side.
Cantum Side. I knew it was a K. Who wanted to focus on being in a relationship and wanted to do that, and so they left the order to do that. It's not about. It's about them wanting that this person to be their number one thing in their life, right? They wanted to put this person first, and so they're like, okay, I'm gonna do this instead of my duty. And honestly, that's the right thing to do.
It's the mature thing to do. When Obi-Wan says he would have left the Jedi Order for Satine, that's him recognizing that had they pursued their feelings for each other, he would not be able to be a Jedi. Whereas in Avar and Elzar's case, they're both like, we can still be Jedi.
They're both. I mean, they're in the both in the thick of it already and understand. But like, I also think a lot of us people forget that the Jedi is not a 9-to-5 job. You know what I mean? It'd be like if you know, Anakin married Padme, but they were separated way more than they were ever together. He'd be gone for months and months at a time, doing campaign, doing the sieges and the Outer Rims and all this stuff because he's a Jedi. You might have to go be the regent on some random planet. You might have to go do all sorts of things, and you know, I guess it's not super fair if you want to do that role and leave your family behind. Like, and there's nothing wrong with just leaving the Jedi, you know.
Yeah, I would imagine that Avar and Elzar, if they like somewhere down the line in the future had married each other, they would have both left. But I think in terms of like, you know, loving each other and being together, they recognized that they could put being a Jedi first. And when Obi-Wan says he would have left, that's not saying that, you know, had they been together, the Jedi would have expelled him. Because obviously there's a lot of precedent for people that have relationships and aren't expelled and don't leave. But it is the mature thing to do.
It's super common.
Yeah. It's just the mature thing to do. You recognize, you know, you have feelings for someone, and you wouldn't be able to put aside your Jedi duties, so you would just leave to be with them.
Let's see. What's one beverage from Star Wars you'd love to try? I want to try Port in the Storm. It sounds really festive. I also want to... So they do have Port in the Storm at the Disney parks, but it is not the same thing. Listen, Port in the Storm, if you really try it, is like... It's like white lightning, right? It's like moonshine. And you know that because in Bloodlines, they're like, yeah, Han uses it to strip paint off of his engine part. You know what I mean? Like, it is yeah, he uses it as a paint thinner. That's some gnarly stuff. It's a good at Galaxy's Edge.
I want to try a Tonneray. But I also want to try what they got going on Chandrilla. What did they have in their drinks before the EDM started playing? Before Niamos started. They all just lost it.
I want to try a. What did the 50s robot diner waitress say? A spatchka? Spatchka?
I don't think she said spatchka. I think it was something juice.
Oh, she said a Jawa juice.
Yeah, Jawa juice.
Yeah, I want to try some Jawa juice. I don't know if it's juice made from a Jawa, made by a Jawa, made by soaking a Jawa and squeezing them out like a Jawa tea bag.
You know what? Yeah. I would actually like to try blue and green milk as well, and not the ones that we've obviously tried in terms of like, stand-in at Galaxy's Edge. I would like to try what they're drinking.
He wants to try it like Luke, straight from the
Hell yeah,
straight to the dome.
Take it straight from Bix. I'm just kidding.
What was it called? The Thyro Siren, the Theus Siren,
Thalassirin. Yeah, it's a Thalassirin. Yeah. Connor Vipers, would anyone actually want to actually try the blue or green milk? Asking for research. No, I mean, I think if we're in universe, and it's something that people drink. It's not like the Lars Homestead had some secret stash of green and blue moonshine that like nobody has ever tasted. It's obviously something that people drink in Tatooine.
I would. So it's not a drink, but I just remember that at the Republic Fair they had trees with big fruit that tasted like meat.
You know what? I'd actually love to try all of the pastries that they did during the Bake Off.
Oh yeah, Mailerons look delicious.
What about you think the black fruit that the Sand Peoples drink? Is it just water? Is that their water?
It's water, but it's really disgusting.
It's like puddle water.
What are they called? Black eggs. Oh my god, my brain.
It's probably solidified crate dragon sweat. Gage says, I think Avar and Elzar is the best example of how Jedi can love. I think it helps that they're both Jedi. I'm surprised Obi-Wan wouldn't have tried to balance it. I think it's really difficult to kind of imagine Obi-Wan trying to balance that because Satine is also a leader of the Mandalorian people. So it's like there's almost a conflicting values there.
Okay, I have a question for the chat. Because we've kind of brought up Leia Bloodlines, which is one of the best Star Wars books ever written. We know ultimately Han and Leia end up splitting up, and I know that gave a lot of people some types of feelings. Are you guys okay with it? Did you need them together? Is it bad writing that they split apart? Or is the concept, because their split is not dissimilar to what would happen to someone like that in the Jedi Order, where she is a senator and has to do senatorial things, and he has wanderlust, and he hates being stuck, and he hates the stability, and hates having to be here or having to be, a senator's husband.
You talking about Anakin?
No. No, Han.
Oh, Han.
Ultimately, what happened with their son is what fully separates them. But he's an outdoor cat. You know what I mean? And he couldn't handle being an indoor cat.
Oh yeah, he's a scoundrel.
Do you think that they should have made them stay together, that they would change as people, or do you like that the core of the people didn't change, and because of those differences, they led to what might be a natural conclusion?
I think what happened narratively is the thing that makes the most sense. I think that, given Leia's upbringing and Han's upbringing, a relationship between them wouldn't last on the surface, but narratively, as we learn in Bloodline, Han did try to change.
Yeah.
Right? But oftentimes that's not the solution, right? You like having to change yourself drastically for a partner typically does not have good results, right? The correct fit needs to be from both sides, and it needs to be naturally, like when one side needs to make the hugest adjustment, it takes a toll on them. So I think they wrote that absolutely spot on.
I'm in the same boat. I do agree with how it was written, because the way it was written, when we see them in The Force Awakens, it's still very apparent that they still love each other. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I just, I think life is complicated. Love is complicated. Family is complicated. You know?
Now, at the same time,
Han is like, I'm an outdoor cat, and I can't be an indoor cat. It feels like I'm dying. But at the same time, he can still love her unconditionally. You know?
At the same time, if I bring it back to the original trilogy, though, the original story, what is the percentage of Leia's feelings for Han that is genuine love and versus fascination? Because when I did watch the originals, and by Empire Strikes Back, when she said, "I love you," I know. A small, maybe 30% of me was like, how? You know what I mean?
No, I could see him doing that. Gage says, I feel like Han would have known what he was signing up for. Plus, he can still go do things while she's still a senator. I'm surprised he didn't go back to her when he heard about the Resistance. And yeah, he ended up managing a racing team while she was a senator. But I mean, that distance over time can take its toll. But I don't think he would know what he was setting himself up for. I mean, we have to realize that.
I think he was trying honestly to lead a life, an honest life.
Yeah.
To reduce the friction between being, you know, having a wife that is of the government, and you're like, I guess I can't be a smuggler anymore.
Well, okay, but think about it this way. He's flirting with this girl. They have heat, you know, she's hot, he's hot, all this stuff. They go, I love you, I know, and share their first kiss. And then he's frozen in carbonite. He's thawed out, and then they go on a mission, and then they get married at the end of the mission. How long were they actually together? I don't know that he could have known what he was getting into at that point. Not to mention, Han being a smuggler, being a survivor, being an outdoor cat works really well when you're with the rebellion, right? Because that's the life that you have to live. But being in the rebellion versus building the society afterwards is very different. I don't know. I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just, throwing it out there.
I also think that a significant but small part of how that happens is because Leia is also really young. Because she's 22. True. She's 22 when she says, I love you.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I forget about that.
Right? And Han is like...
Han's 10 years older than her.
Yeah.
Hey, good night, Marcus. You have a good night.
Thanks for stopping by. So that's interesting to think about. How true is young love? Like, obviously, I do believe that it's possible. You can find someone that you genuinely love, but like at 22, you're like leading a rebellion, and your world is pretty raucous, to say the least. And you've got this like swashbuckling, handsome, devilish bad boy, I suppose, in those terms.
Yeah. Also, I'm sure. I mean, there's a lot of relationships that happen out of. We might die tomorrow. You know what I mean? Or you have You know, you've worked places where you have people who are office hot.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm really attracted to this person that I work with until you go outside and you're like, no.
Yeah, those are the people you discuss with FNK. Because I think back to my early mid-20s and how quick I was to profess my love back then. But that of course is me. So that's not to say. I'm just saying that's something to think about. You know, Gage says I would say based on how mature Leia was at a young age, her 22 might be more like someone else's 26, and that could very well be the case. That's still pretty young.
I mean, I don't know.
She might act like someone's
especially 26 for a woman, but
she might
again,
act like someone's 26. But she still only ever lived 22 years. So it doesn't give her like a solid foundation to be 26.
Yes, but by the same token, being old doesn't mean you're mature at all. So
no, that's true. What I'm saying is though, you can meet someone that's like 23 and think that they have an old soul. Right? Or they're more mature than most people I know at 30 or whatever. But they're still 22 or 23.
Yeah. I think it just depends on personality, mostly. That being said, I don't know if there's any women in the audience. If you're like 18 or 19 and a guy's like, oh, you're so mature for your age, run.
That's the opening line for groomers.
It's a trap.
Actually, the opening line is, "You have such an old soul."
She has experienced far more than most people at her age, though. I mean, you're not wrong, but did she experience the right things? That's the other question. Because, like, if all she's ever known is like war and espionage, you know, like I think of Padme. You know, when you read the Padme books, she is just like, she was a queen, and then she's a senator, and then she's like, I've never actually dated anyone because I've never had the opportunity to. You know what I mean?
I don't think Leia has much experience with that either. And that's more or less what I'm trying to get at. Just conceptually, even if you meet someone that has experienced so much of life, if it's all in war and politics, they haven't experienced love. They haven't experienced relationships. They haven't experienced heartbreak. You know, there's social experience. There's work experience, professional experience. There's lived experience. So a person that like grew up on the streets with no parents, had to work for every penny they ever earned, or had to work for every penny they ever had, and had like close to no help in surviving. They've gone through some stuff, but they don't have any experience in a lot of other things. That's what I'm saying. Gage says, yeah, do not go after old people at age 18. Also, do not go after 18-year-olds. Is another, I mean, just to kind of flip that script on that statement there.
You know what's funny is like, I hear kind of like the red pill dudes kind of talk about how they wouldn't date a girl who's like above 30.
Yes.
And I'm like, I wouldn't date a girl who's younger than 30.
I think my cutoff, no, I mean, it depends. My cutoff right now is 28. Because at the very least, they're within a range that they can be like, oh, I remember that. But like, if I talk to someone and they don't remember Rugrats or something, or something. It's like a clear generational delta. It's weird. You've gone through almost 2 decades of like drinking, clubbing, experiencing love and relationships, and then to think about trying to relate to someone that's only ever had that for like a couple years.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I also think, and I don't know why this has become a relationship podcast, so I apologize to everyone, but
you're the one that posed the question.
I know. It's my fault. But I think it's going to be weird for all the people now, like Gen Z people specifically, when they get our age, because there's like very specific divides, and there's going to be a generation that has only known the world with AI answering their questions, and available for them to talk to. And I feel like that generation is just going to be different people. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a hard, versus people who like remember before.
Mm-hmm.
Just like for me, my cutoff is probably has to do with largely internet culture or social media culture. You know what I mean? Like, if you remember the world before memes were a thing, then that could work. If you remember the time before Google owned YouTube, if you know who Star Wars Kid is,
Actually, that's funny, Gage. Gage says, imagine people asking AI for relationship advice. I was just, but I think it was like last week I was watching Smosh reads Reddit stories, and there was actually a point where someone had used ChatGPT to write their like apology letter. I'm just like,
no. It's going to be hilarious, man. I'm telling you, there's going to be people who are dating, but they've never actually spoken to each other because this person used ChatGPT to figure out what to say. They use ChatGPT to figure out how to respond, and it's just two ChatGPTs talking to each other.
And instead of having like a reluctant middle person that's like both your guys' friend, it is ChatGPT. You just go to your phone, ChatGPT, can you tell Stacey I don't want to talk to her anymore? And then like it's like it rings on her phone. It's like Derek would not like to speak to you anymore. It's like, God dang it.
I mean, there also is a growing population of people who have had romantic relationships with AIs. I think it was like 1 in 5 teenagers know someone who's had a romantic relationship. Okay.
That's going to be gnarly.
Yeah, I mean, there was that one person who like committed suicide because he was dating an AI Kalishi, and she told him to like kill himself or something like that.
Well, if you think about current internet culture, there are people who like fall in love with VTubers and stuff. It's like, but those are avatars. You don't know how they look.
But that's still a person. You're still falling in love with the soul of a person.
That's true. I'm just saying, like that's the precipice right now. We're on the precipice. There's a boy group. There's a boy group in K-pop called Plave, Plave. They're all behind motion capture suits. They can all sing and dance, but none of their real visages are like known. But people love them anyway. I'm a huge fan. They can sing and dance, but most of their like performance, no, not most of, all of their performances are avatars.
I mean, the gorillas are avatars.
Yes.
I actually know the fashion designer who designed all their clothes. Oddly enough.
But yeah, I mean, this is the transitional period for sure. The generation that's just going to be talking to AI the whole time is going to be nuts to think about. But why don't we move on to this main segment? We can all react at the same time to this video by Generation Tech called The Overlooked Reason Why the Jedi Failed. And I'll turn off my Christmas music so that we can listen to this and react together. Chat, feel free to weigh in. Let's do this.
The late Republic period is when the Jedi finally lost their identity and forgot who they were. There are many external factors that caused this decline. First, the Jedi's connection to the Force had become increasingly clouded. This is partly due to the Sith's meddling, but equally as important, I think, is the fact that the Jedi Order no longer really understood what their role in the Republic was. The relationship between the Jedi and the Republic was always vague by design. It was never clearly discussed, nothing was ever written down. There was no debate about it. But that vagueness worked because the galaxy trusted the Jedi almost blindly. For thousands of years, the Jedi were the arbiters of justice, the protectors of the weak, the moral compass everyone relied on. People took comfort in believing that the Jedi were a pure beacon of hope. In the same way, some people in our own world look to religious figures and politicians to do their moral heavy lifting. For a long time, this very ambiguous relationship with the Republic really benefited the Jedi. If they ever felt like something the Republic asked them to do didn't line up with their code, they could always take a few steps back. For example, during the early Mandalorian Wars, the Jedi Council refused to let their members join the conflict. They felt like it wasn't their place to join the conflict. But by the late...
That's where I'm going to provide my first pushback, because that was never a decision that they made because it was like against their code. They'd literally come out of a war already with the Sith. And they were trying to rebuild their numbers and trying to rebuild their foundation as the Jedi Order. And by the time Revan and Alec came to them to join the Crusade, they were like, we're in no position to join the war. You know, we can't.
Yeah,
it's almost like Mace Windu with Palpatine's like, there aren't enough Jedi in the galaxy to protect the Republic.
Also, I mean, he started out by saying that the Jedi didn't really like know their place or understand their relationship with the Republic, which also just isn't true.
Elaborate.
I mean, if we were to turn this into like Avatar: The Last Airbender, it would be if the air nomads had a temple that was, you know, above what was the major city in Korra, and every now and then the people in that city would ask them to do things, right? They're still an independent group. They are not, you know, under the purview. You could think of that as their embassy, as a specific location. But because these people were separate from the political machinations of the city, they would be brought in to act as mediators for this and for that. But like they it's not like they didn't know. Yeah, Republic City. Yeah, it's not like they didn't know their place.
Gage says they were also going to join Mando Wars eventually. They just wanted to wait because they thought there was a greater threat at hand. Well, you know, as we learned from the Old Republic, a lot of times the Jedi's truths are skewed to be incorrect, but oftentimes turn out to be right. And that is the real injustice. I'm just kidding.
I mean, yeah, there absolutely was a greater threat.
Republic era, that same vagueness in their relationship also led to an over-reliance on the Jedi. The Jedi became the de facto diplomatic corps for the Chancellor's office, and they were dragged into bureaucratic and political problems they were really never meant to handle.
No, that's not true either. The Republic had their own diplomats. They had their own emissaries as well. The Jedi... See, this is something that we often misunderstand by virtue of us watching the context of the prequels. We are watching a very specific siloed perspective, which requires the Jedi's involvement. Right? But the Jedi were oftentimes brought in because, talks were breaking down and the Republic couldn't facilitate things any further as arbiters themselves. So they did have their own diplomats. Gosh. Case in point was Irem and Arano, the Forever War. It went on for 7 years, and they had tried to broker peace between the two worlds forever. And it was after the 7 years that they finally brought in the Jedi, and the Jedi were willing to step in because at that point, there was a larger threat to think about. But this is really interesting to think that the Jedi is always brought in when there's a larger threat, and then they have to stretch themselves thin to address another thing.
It's like so the Jedi are paramedics and they're firefighters, right? If you have to call the Jedi, that means something bad happened. Yeah. And whatever bad happened, they are not related to that. They're just there to try and help the people on the ground. But that being said, they become political tools in that the corrupt politicians start using them as a safety net for their own, so they can do terrible things, knowing that the Jedi are going to have to step in to do. Sorry, there's just so many political parallels that it's hard to not say certain things, but just like how companies can fight, and underpay their lowest employees because now they have to rely on the government assistance for those employees. So the government is subsidizing them not paying employees, right? Yeah. It's kind of like the same thing. They can let things go because they're like, oh, okay, well, the Jedi will step in at some point.
Gage says, Kiarimundi sure seemed like a diplomat at the snow cone stand. More like a diplo hat. But yeah, the Jedi were
like
not
Dippin' Dots.
The Jedi were not de facto diplomats for the Republic.
The Jedi also became more political. They redefined peace as simply just supporting the Republic and its many initiatives instead of maybe looking out for the needs of the average citizen in the galaxy.
So there's a bit more nuance to that. They certainly thought...
It's not an incorrect statement, but they thought they were doing the greatest good for the most people.
Yeah, they certainly thought that Republic stood for peace, and for the most part, given their expansionary efforts, the Republic would stretch far and wide, but they didn't remove themselves from keeping the peace on worlds outside of the Republic. Right. Yeah. But oftentimes these galactic conflicts that typically involve the Republic, they would probably look at the Republic as the ones that would serve the most peace. It's funny to think about, actually, because throughout the years, throughout the generations from Legends to canon, most of the conflicts that the Jedi have to deal with is either from the Sith, from another warring faction, or from a separatist movement. And almost all of those factions are hostile, right? They don't come with a message of peace. So it's interesting that they're never caught between a peaceful nation and a peaceful nation that are kind of angry at each other.
Because they can't be. They wouldn't be. But Gage, you're absolutely right. I think allowing the temples to close throughout the galaxy also skewed them into helping them. I mean, the impetus of that, though, is what the Nile did, causing them to come and congregate, largely back on Coruscant. So, yeah, you're going to fight the most fires near the fire station.
It was the mindset of an overwhelmed organization looking for structure and authority to lean on. And this is where the Jedi truly started losing their way. Suddenly, Jedi were being brought in to end labor disputes on behalf of corporations. We had Jedi becoming the defenders of despotic local...
Well, see, again, this is within the context of the prequels. They were brought in because there was a blockade on Naboo. Like, this wasn't day one of negotiations. You know what I mean?
And that wasn't a labor dispute. That was, hey, the people on our planet are going to starve and die. Yeah. And this blockade is illegal. And we have ordered the government, the Senate, to do something. And every effort that they have already put out to do something has already failed.
Yeah. And I knew that this was going to come up because, yeah, this is just an example of what Choco was talking about earlier with corrupt senators using their clout to force the Jedi to do things that are on the surface noble, but underneath very, very shady and corrupt.
Regime
and Gage, you're right. They said it was definitely implied that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon were sent there by the Chancellor specifically. And we have seen that before as well, as in Tales of the Jedi, because Master Katri was friends with that specific senator, and that's why she went out there. But yeah, some of these are not Master Apprentice. Yeah, that happened in that case as well.
Guards of corrupt Senate officials. It just was not a good look for the organization. And the truth is, the Jedi are just normal people.
Okay, I'm sorry. Even in that, in that specific clip that he showed, that was another, very, very long-running dispute that was happening on that planet, and the senator's kid was kidnapped. It was a situation that had been brewing and brewing and brewing, and that had erupted into violence of a person against a ruler against their own people. And that's why they were sent in. And it turns out that it was intentionally done that way. But again, this is another example of the Jedi are firefighters and paramedics. They're sent into triage situations. And so I always get irritated when they get blamed for the situation occurring. When if they are getting involved, that means everything else has already gone wrong.
Or the implication that their involvement implies that was the first measure. The Jedi aren't really first responders unless they are actually there to be first to respond. There were 4 first responders in the Great Disaster, but things were spiraling way too quickly, and the Jedi had to show up to help with that. But that was largely a Republic effort to try to mitigate damage, but they needed the help of the Jedi. And so oftentimes when people watch these stories and see that the Jedi are involved, they often think they're involved normally. But we're watching stories of Jedi, so of course they're going to be involved. But we don't see
survivorship bias.
Yeah, we don't see the normal everyday workings of the galaxy outside of this thing is happening, there's a story around it, right? And that's why when people talk about having normal emotions being a gray thing, it's no, that's still light side. It's just, people have emotions all the time. But they often attribute it the Jedi because we often see the Jedi opposite really evil and dark things. That like all of the in between is put into a box in and of itself. So to think that the conflicts and the scenarios that we watch the Jedi in is normal everyday occurrence is to disregard everything else that happens in the galaxy outside of what we have tuned in to watch. Right? Because there's like 9 years of Ahsoka training Sabine, nothing really happening, but we tune in to Ahsoka to see this thing unfolding, and some people will think, oh well, here's the Jedi again with Sabine, and like they're getting involved again. It's like, no, like there is normalcy and peace in the times in which we're not involved and we're not consuming the media. How's it going, Marianne? What's cooking?
Yep. Hello, Marianne.
We are reacting live to this Generation Tech video talking about the reason why the Jedi failed. So you're more than welcome to stick around and react with us.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Gage says, I like the tales of the light and life story with Loden and Bell helping that city that hates Jedi. I think that's a good example of a normal Jedi act. Yeah.
Yeah. The Jedi were even trying to help the Daguerrean masters who hated them, but they just try to help people.
That's also another thing that's like in the reference books. Particularly the people that think that the Jedi kidnap children, they're often citing that one quote,
which was just an accusation.
Yeah, it was like
the Jedi were like,
they were
okay,
labeled
we're not
kidnappers.
Yeah.
But then if we go to the Legends Jedi Path book, or is it Jedi Code Jedi Path? Legends Jedi Path.
Jedi Path.
They addressed the Dagoyan masters and said, they thought we were kidnapping, but the Bardatans were sending their children willingly. And then the Dagoyans just wanted their children to be trained in Dagoyan practice. So as soon as they voiced their protest, they returned the children. They're like, I don't want to deal with this.
Even in the context of the episode, they say they accuse us of it, so we stopped inducting kids from this place entirely. Yeah. And you're like, kidnappers are not. No. Anyways.
5 Up on TikTok says, does Yoda's race normally live 900 years, or was that only because he was a Jedi? They're typically long-lived.
Everyone that we've seen or heard of is long-lived. We just have no idea. We've never seen one that isn't Force sensitive. So yeah, we don't have a sample size large enough to come to any.
We do have physiology from everything, absolutely everything you need to know about Star Wars, the book. In which case they say that their race is infantile in the first 50 years. So just with that, we can infer that they are long-lived. Coupled with what Choco just said, our only people that we know of the race are long-lived and are Force sensitive. We don't have an example of that race being non-Force sensitive. So for all intents and purposes, that species is long-lived. They're infantile for the first 50 years and mature and reach a growth spurt by 100, which kind of falls in line with the timing of when Yoda became a Jedi Master. So that's as much as we know.
Which means they're going to milk the Mandalorian for decades
50
to come.
years. They're going to do another movie when Grogu is 75 years old. And
but he's going to be an edgy teenager.
He's going to be like Groot. I am Groot. What is he going to say? Instead of... he's just going to be like, I am Dan. Grogu could be close to 50 for all... He is.
Grogu is...
He is
50. Over 50 now. He has the same... He was born the same year as Anakin.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Anakin looked terrible when he died.
Electric Angel 117 says the Jedi
So did
failed
Obi-Wan.
because they tried to balance killing with justification and violence. That's not a mantra that the Jedi live by. So we'll have that discussion after this reaction.
The majority of them are probably followers and not independent thinkers. And while the entire Jedi Order went under rigorous training, which was designed to create a strong moral compass in its followers, the individual Jedi could still make mistakes. They could be fooled, or they could, just fall prey to their own internal weaknesses. Even Qui-Gon Jinn, who is seen as one of the most independent thinkers in the Jedi Order during this period, made a huge mistake that is, central to the discussion in this video. And so anyway, most Jedi just fell in line with the leadership. Being Force sensitive does not protect you from making stupid or poor decisions. And when the environment became more chaotic in the galaxy and the problems became harder to solve, that instinct to follow the Jedi Order's leadership became even stronger. And when the supposed guardians of everything that is right in the galaxy start to falter, it's oftentimes the most vulnerable and weakest people who end up getting hurt. Individuals like Shmi Skywalker. Shmi Skywalker, the mother of Anakin Skywalker, the most consequential Jedi of the late Republic period, had an incredibly difficult and cruel life. Her and her parents were actually captured when she was quite young by pirates and sold off into slavery. She bounced from one system to another in the service of different masters until she finally was purchased by Gardula the Hutt on Tatooine. Everything that happened to her in this chapter of her life is directly connected to the failures of the Republic security apparatus, and also the Jedi Order. They're supposed to be defending the Republic's constitution, which forbids slavery in any form.
No, that's not true at all.
So, okay, they're in the Outer Rim. They are not under the Republic there at all. But yes, it is forbidden by the Republic. But
that's why Republic Datteries didn't work in Tatooine.
Yeah. I don't understand what the Jedi have to do with that, though.
They don't.
I mean, the Jedi do oppose slavery, right? They brought the Zygerian slaver empire to its knees, but they are not able to police the entire galaxy, and they would need to have a considerable amount of political power in order to really address that problem.
And they don't serve the Republic's constitution. They don't even serve the Republic, at least insofar as they serve under them. But as we've established, the Tatooine and most of the Outer Rim planets that involve slavery are not, in fact, part of the Republic. And so they would have to supersede jurisdiction or wrest authority from those in power to do so. Gitch says, I feel like Qui-Gon should have freed Shmi, but in his defense, they're trying to keep a low profile, not alert the Hutts and subsequently the Trade Federation.
Well, they couldn't free Shmi. They didn't have a way to do so.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
Right.
He had.
They couldn't afford to.
Yeah, he had 20,000 Republic credits that they wouldn't take.
And he couldn't just take her because there's a bomb implanted in their body that would blow her up.
Yeah.
Also, there was an entire conflict happening with like scores of people dying and being tortured in prison camps back on Naboo. So time was of the essence as well.
Yeah. It's just rough because the entire purpose of them finding Anakin.
Jackson, great to see you.
The entire purpose of them being on Tatooine is not to find Anakin. And they happen upon Anakin. It's important to Qui-Gon because of the prophecy, but they're not there to free anyone. And they didn't have the currency with which to free anyone. And so just like Choco said, they were time was of the essence, right? They had to get out of there. They were fleeing the Trade Federation. And they were in Hutt space, not Republic space.
Even if Tatooine and Hutt space fall outside of the jurisdiction of the Republic, a failure to invest in the security and defense of the galaxies is most likely what led to Shmi Skywalker's family being kidnapped by pirates in the first place.
Now, that's an interesting take.
Of what? Them failing to
Because
police the entire galaxy?
Is it a failure?
They literally can't do that.
Yeah, is it a failure of... All right, so let's say, I mean, is it a failure to not stop a crime that's happening down the street that you don't know of, or that you don't have any power to stop? Or in this case, is it a failure? Is it a failure for them? Yeah, you said it. I'm just being verbose. Is it a failure for them to police the entire galaxy?
Yeah. So everyone in chat, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this. There's something that happens at the very beginning of the book, The Living Force, where Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon, they steal away upon this ship, right? And they're kind of hiding there, and they look around, and everyone there is pretty worse for wear, right? They're being transported in bad conditions that aren't super safe, and the people are hungry. And so what they do, everyone has like a ticket for like their meal or whatever, and so they give their tickets to this family. Like their kids looked extra hungry, so they give them to them. So those kids get the extra food. Well, later everyone else comes up and they're like, you gave them food. We're hungry too. Don't we deserve food? Don't we deserve to eat?
Yeah.
What do you think they should do there? Should they have not given the food because it's not fair for everyone else? Should they have taken the food themselves, divided up amongst everyone in the ship and give everyone a crumb? Should they... Like, what do you do in that situation? Is there an actual answer in that situation? Because I feel like that's just like a microcosm of the same exact issue that we're looking at.
Yeah, I think where this video currently lies in terms of its rhetoric is oftentimes where a lot of fans lie, and that is the onus is on the Jedi most of the time, and it's just that can't be further from the truth because it's a large galaxy. There's only 10,000 Jedi in a galaxy. So even if we're talking about Republic space and the expansionary territory, we're talking about like 12, 15 people on a planet. They don't have a standing army on every world to enact a police state.
Even if we only were on Earth and you had 10,000 people,
yeah,
to try and stop the crimes, what could you do?
That's
now,
like the amount of people that fits in the
um,
Galleria.
Yeah, but and I'm not saying they shouldn't have tried to free slaves, but I'm also saying that they did. They freed a lot of slaves and destroyed a slaver empire. I'm saying that they always had investigations going on, and they would destroy these criminal rings at the top. But of course, does that directly affect the people at the bottom? Or if they were focused on the people at the bottom, that would leave more victims because they were leaving the people at the top who were perpetrating the whole situation. I don't know. I just see a situation where, despite the Jedi's best efforts to solve a problem, they end up getting blamed for something that they didn't start, but they will catch the blame because they weren't able to fix it. But they were never going to be able to fix it. They don't have the resource or the authority or the political power or the money or the manpower to do so.
I have relevant. This is something that is contemporary for us. It's the Superman problem.
Mm-hmm.
He stops the war, but people blame him for diplomatic.
An individual person dies. How come you didn't save them?
Lord Group says, in my opinion, the Jedi could have an active effort of freeing slaves from these entities like the Hutts. Maybe they do, but I've not heard or seen that yet. So
They do.
They do, but
And they destroy those organizations. But they also have to acknowledge that by destroying one of these organizations, you also can create a power vacuum. Or, depending on what you do, you can start a conflict that will end up with more people being in trouble. So they have to weigh a lot of things.
But you also have to think about how much manpower and how much authority they have to exercise, right? Because most of the time the Jedi could operate autonomously within Republic space because the Republic recognizes them as such, right? But in the Outer Rim, in the expansionary unknown regions, they don't have any authority. So what they are doing effectively, acting outside of Republic space, is exerting their own authority. And we come back to the Superman problem. Who gave you the right? So they're always to blame. If
That's
you think
interesting.
that.
In the expanded universe, when Luke first makes his Jedi Order, it's not an order. He trains individual Jedi, and he's like, "Go be Jedi." But they're all doing what they think is right and wrong individually, which is causing random conflict, even with each other sometimes. I don't know. It's. I'm not saying that there is no answer.
There isn't.
I'm not saying there's not a right answer. There's not a perfect solution, and that's ultimately one of the things I get annoyed at in the fan base is that people will say, well, this bad thing happened, therefore this thing they did was wrong. They should have done that instead. But you also have to run that to its logical conclusion, because something bad happens there. It's just a different bad.
Yeah. Well, actually, okay, there is a correct answer. I forget who says this, but it's in the books. They say, all you have to do is try your best every single day.
Yeah.
And the Jedi, removed from like individuals that make mistakes and make the wrong decisions and get corrupted and fall to the dark side, as a whole, as a concept, the Jedi do try their best. That's all you can ever ask of anyone. And in regards to Phineas's statement, I think they made the right choice, but I don't know how they answer the crowd's request other than to say we will try to help later. That's the best you can hope for or promise, really, because I'm brought back to this time when I was in Portland, and someone outside of Carl's Jr. looked hungry. So, not Carl's Jr., sorry, it was a Jack in the Box. I got them a burger, and they were super happy to have the burger, and they were hungry. I left. There was another hungry person. Am I then required to stand there and wait for every single hungry person to show up to make sure I've gotten everyone?
By the way, I will never forgive The Last Jedi. I love the movie, but I will never forgive it for removing the middle lesson, which was that.
Yeah.
Also, it was comedy gold. But they're on the island, and there's the maidens or whatever creatures, and then there's like a boat that's coming in to the island, and Luke's like, so that's a group of marauders. They come and they kidnap and murder and they do all this stuff. And then Rey's like, we have to go save them. Let's go. And she just starts sprinting down. That's why, in the commercial, we see her running in the dark with a turned on lightsaber. It was for this. But she runs down and she busts in the room, and they're all just dancing with each other. And it's just the men of that species, and they go out and fish or whatever, and then they come back, and then they all hang out. But what Luke was trying to make her understand is he was like, no, don't go down there. We have to let them be. And she's like, no, if we can save them, then we need to. And he's like, but if you save them right now, more of them will come next time. It'll be worse for them next time. Will you be here for the next time it happens? Or the time after that? Or the time after that? I don't know. I don't have these answers. These are just philosophical questions.
Yoda had the answer. He saved Yoda saved
has more time.
I know,
okay?
but so no, I bring this up because it's relevant. Yoda saved a village from marauders, and the next thing he did was call the council and said, I'm gonna be here for a while. Because he recognized that lesson. Or he recognized that they'd be back,
Yeah, but in Yoda's case, he stays there for like 20 years. And he's able to fix it because he's able to deal with 2 different generations of the people.
I mean, that's why he's
Mark's delivery was hilarious. Yeah. When she busts in the room, she's like, why did you say it? And he's like, you were just so fast.
All right, let's continue this.
All right, sorry.
I would also argue that allowing the Hutts to maintain such a massive amount of space where they can, run guns and spice is a huge problem as well. Shmi Skywalker would miraculously...
So, no, I mean, again, this comes back to... And I'll just insert this and we'll continue, but the onus isn't on the Jedi in this case. So you can't say that they are allowing the Hutts. You can't say that for lack of being vigilantes all across the galaxy, they are allowing people to be evil. That's just not the case.
Give birth to Anakin, who would also be born a slave. Gardula the Hutt would lose the Skywalkers in a bet to the Tordarian junk dealer Watto, and the Skywalkers would move into a modest apartment in the Mos Espa slave quarters. It quickly became apparent that Anakin had an affinity to tinkering with things. He was really good at repairing and building all sorts of mechanical things. He also developed quite a reputation as a pod racer, and despite his mother's protests, Watto demanded the boy race for him. And this is a very dangerous sport. On several occasions, Anakin got involved in some pretty hairy crashes. In one case, he completely destroyed one of his legs and needed surgery to fix it. Shmi Skywalker lacked the ability to properly protect her son because of their slave status. But she tried her best anyway, and focused on making Anakin resilient and confident in himself. She often told Anakin stories of the mythical Tatooine sun dragon, who had the biggest heart of any creature in the galaxy and could survive even in the most difficult situations. And perhaps most importantly,
the sun dragon?
Shmi Skywalker taught Anakin about the importance of compassion. Probably one of Anakin's strongest character traits that is oftentimes overshadowed by his fall to the dark side. Shmi is Anakin's emotional anchor.
His compassion is what made him a good Jedi.
That's
what the Jedi
And when
teach.
we're young and vulnerable, having that kind of parental figure is extremely important in how we develop as human beings. It's like if you've ever played a survival crafting video game, your base is an incredibly important place in-game. It's where you can return to for food, drink, and protection from the elements and enemies. It's where you can store resources you've collected and upgrade your characters and equipment as well. All these things make you stronger and more well-equipped to explore the larger world. Without a base,
I'm
you're
still
just
waiting for the
wandering
point.
aimlessly around the map, never fully feeling safe enough to take on
I don't
more
need
loot
protection
because
from the
of your
elements.
limited inventory or
He's
having the
working with
skills
me.
and tools to reach a difficult area. You're kind of just
I don't
stuck
need protection
in the
from
most
Chacos.
basic gameplay loop, which is this very basic survival. Get water, get food, don't die. And because of that, you can't really move forward or have larger goals and plans. And so,
I get this is larger context for the conversation, but I feel like you got to move on.
When a real challenge emerges, or you reach the endgame content, you find yourselves without the tools to deal with those challenges. And maybe this is something the Jedi didn't really understand, because most Jedi are taken away from their parents at a very young age. The idea is for the Jedi Order and the Code to become their
Most, but
foundation.
not all.
It's supposed to replace their parents. But in Anakin's case, he was already too old and too reliant on his mother. When Qui-Gon Jinn saw Anakin Skywalker, he became fixated on the powerful Force user in front of him and didn't properly assess his relationship with Shmi. Qui-Gon Jinn was pretty unorthodox Jedi himself. He often found himself in disagreement with the High Council, and even though Yoda valued his outside-the-box thinking and even gave him an invitation to the High Council, Qui-Gon Jinn refused to take that position up. And that's because Qui-Gon Jinn followed the living Force. He often communed with it, then let the Force guide his actions. But of course, even he can get things wrong. And honestly, he oftentimes did. Like when he rescues Anakin Skywalker from Watto, but leaves Shmi Skywalker behind. I'm fully aware that at the time of their departure, Qui-Gon Jinn lacked the resources to actually buy Shmi as well, but why didn't Qui-Gon Jinn just send someone to Tatooine when they arrived on Coruscant? The Jedi were rich and had plenty of resources.
Because as soon as they arrived on Coruscant, they had to deal with something else. It's
They're
almost
in the middle of they're in the middle of a crisis that they're trying to solve. Literally, Anakin's going off with them because they have to go deal with a crisis.
Yes. And literally, like, they have to... I think they leave Anakin with the handmaidens as well because other things are happening. And, like, his audience with the council is will come when it comes. But
now,
this is
a
the thing.
Problem. There is a huge problem. All right, and this comes, and by the way, the community created this problem, okay? Because on Tatooine, there was a guy that was so cool that people were like, "That's an undercover Jedi," and that is where we get our favorite Kifar.
Quinlan Voss. Oh, I thought you were struggling with the name.
Oh no, I just assumed everyone knew the name. So that becomes super problematic because they walk right past him, and they can't be like, "Hey, bro, we're stuck here. It's kind of important. Can you help?" That's just funny to me.
No, it is one of those kind of like, I would say that's a plot. That's a plot hole.
It's not a plot hole though, because that's not what that guy was created to be. It was just a dude. It was the fans who made that into a hole.
They retconned it into a hole. That's weird.
Exactly.
Yes. So Gage says the Jedi were not rich. Exactly. I don't know where they're getting this. They operate mostly on alms. So like, how do they have how are they rich in resources? They're funded by the Republic. And I feel like a lot of people mistake funding for like actual assets and resources.
No, what happens is people just put whatever they think about organized religion and put that on top of the Jedi. Listen, if you walk into any of the Jedi's rooms, it is bare as hell. Like they don't buy stuff. They don't get any new things, I assume they probably already own the building.
but it's also part of the point. It's also part of the point though too, because like even religious organizations are subsidized by, they're exempt and they're subsidized by taxes. That does not mean they're rich, right?
True.
We'll find evangelists with private jets that take advantage.
And that's what I mean is, and those people are the deviation. They're not the norm, but those are the people who motivate the ire against organized religion because you see, you never trust a preacher with a Rolex, right? As the saying goes. And so these people are being paid millions of dollars, asking for donations forcing them to donate.
And they're exempt.
Yeah. But that's not the Jedi.
But that's kind of like the point I wanted to make is that they're subsidized and funded by the Republic, but they're not given like millions upon millions of credits to operate. Like they're given a budget. They stay within that budget. They don't have to. There's no canon information on this. I'm assuming that they are also kind of like exempt from, you know, the exorbitant. I know that there's canon information on the taxes of living on Coruscant.
I mean, I would assume that they were tax exempt just because they're literally not under the jurisdiction of the Republic. That's why Ahsoka has to be expelled so she can be tried.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
That would
so
be
the
taxation without representation, but I don't know if they have that. Those rules.
They don't. There's no one. They don't have a representative in the Senate.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like we have a lot of stories in the books about how rich you have to be to live on Coruscant, right? And to operate the way that they do, I'm sure they are exempt from that because they largely get funded by the Republic. But it doesn't mean they're rich and they have plenty of resources.
You know what's funny? Every now and then your voice starts to take on a Sam Cedar like quality, like just a second ago. There's anyway.
I don't have a Sam Cedar, but I suppose.
Yeah. That being said, I'm sure that the Jedi could have afforded to purchase one slave, but then again, that opens up a lot of other weird doors of like, what do we do with her? Where do we take her? Where does she go? Do we pay for her to live everywhere? I mean, also there's a catastrophic death toll that we're trying to deal with, and
well, there's the larger door that opens is why not buy every other slave? You know, and again, they don't have the money for that, and just as we read in the Living Force, they have to close temples because the funding is being reduced.
Yeah, they literally can't afford to keep temples on all the planets.
And that's what Gage says. So again, a point against this point, or rather, scratch that point because it's invalid.
But nothing but respect to Generation Tech here, because while he's saying what he fully believes, yeah, there's no grift in here, there's no ill intent in here, and he's actually doing a pretty decent job of blending together legends and canon in a way that isn't contradictory inherently, which I found to be interesting.
So, I mean, yeah, we do have to, I guess we can't preface it because we're already in the middle of the reaction, but a community member did request our reaction to this video, not as a reaction to chuddery or grift goblinry or carpet nuggetry. They wanted our reaction to it because Generation Tech often does really good videos. And they wanted our opinion on some points and to see if we disagreed on any points. So no, there's no animosity or any kind of like, we're just pushing back on some points that could be or is incorrect.
Wrong and goes against the Republic's laws and Jedi moral compass. I mean, this is a more cynical and dark take, but maybe Qui-Gon Jinn just wants to separate Anakin from his mom so he has more control in how he's being trained. Remember, Qui-Gon Jinn wants to shape Anakin into the chosen one. Some fans have also suggested that Qui-Gon Jinn might not have
maybe in theory, I cringe at how that is being portrayed, because like it makes it sound like it's malicious. We have to remember that that a different belief system isn't inherently bad or worse for being different, right? Someone who is raised in a monastery with like monks, where you're raised as a community, doesn't necessarily have it worse off. You know what I mean? And again, I go back to Avatar: The Last Airbender. Aang was raised without knowing a mother and father, right? He was raised as part of this community. Wookiees are not taken until they're like 40 years old, and that's because their culture is inherently communal, So they are raised in a way that is just naturally cohesive to what the Jedi do. So saying like he wanted to separate him from, I don't know, I just didn't like the tone of that, because you also have to remember that this is all normal to anyone who is a Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be something where it's not even a thought, where they're like, yeah, this is just regular, you know, these are your family, and anyone you're surrounded with is just your family, you know. It doesn't have to be malicious or even an active thought.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I don't know. I'm just kidding. No, I was, so shout out to Time Trav with the $4.99 ramen drop. I know you had something important. You were saying an important thing, but I was just like, I clocked out and I was like, why aren't alerts working? So my mind went there. But for your information, when you watch my fan film, be sure to watch the opening crawl first. It's a separate vid. Love today's convo. May the force be with you. P.S. You're most anticipated for 2026. Anticipated what?
From Star Wars, I would imagine, but I mean, I think the movie's really the only thing we have going on. So,
actually, you know what? I'm gonna go with Ahsoka season 2. I'm anticipating Mandalorian Grogu, but I'm I'm anticipating the lore, because like Dave Filoni hinted at a lot of things with Baylan Skoll's story, and so that's just kind of like candy for me.
Yeah, I'm actually gonna go with Zero Company, because I think there's gonna be some really cool story things in there that might be really cool.
All right. 1 second. I'm gonna try something that I have not tried in a long time. Hold on.
All right, I feel like you turned into Rafiki at the end of that.
He is the prince. Let's see.
You mean the monkey's his uncle? But while he's working on the alerts, everyone in the chat, what are you guys excited for? Maul Shadow Lord? Okay, yeah, that's
that's true.
That'll be a good one. Zero Company looks so goated. If you've at all played XCOM, right? It's that team. They are getting people who are heavy hitters content creation wise in the in that world, to get an active look into things on the back end, and so they're definitely going to, if you like that, you're going to enjoy this. But they're building a strong story as well, and yeah, I'm excited.
Hold on.
Yeah, they've based it as an XCOM 2 clone, because that game is near perfect. Yeah. Think of XCOM 2 and Marvel Midnight Suns, but without the card system. So it perfectly blends together. This, the tactical element, but also it's still very cinematic at the same time. You know, and then your characters do have their stories, and then, you know, and they can die, and you know, you can have one of the characters in there is an Umbaran, and one of the other named characters is a clone. And they don't get along for those reasons, right? And so you'll have affinity bonuses based off of the people's relationships with each other. And there's just going to be some interesting things. And I'm so bummed out that I couldn't do more with him. But like an idiot, I have to work to provide for my family. I still maintain that had I really dug into it, I could have done content full time. But I just don't want to.
That's totally fine,
You know?
my dude.
Like I was really on that fence back. That was back when I was still friends with Theory. And seeing how much he hated Star Wars, but still has to cover it, made me be like, maybe I need to keep this thing I love as something I love. You know? I don't know.
I know it's taking a while. I'll have to test this later. Unless somebody wants to generously super chat something. But I'm not going to ask for that. I'll test this later. But we can go on. I don't want to torture Choco any further.
No, I just don't know exactly what what you're doing.
Oh, I'm trying to fix the alerts. That's what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Does this count? I don't think that shows up for alerts, but I appreciate it nonetheless. You being a member for 13 months, the Lord Goob. TBO says, could you detail what Filoni teased about Balin's story? He basically said that while talking about replacing Ray Stevenson, he said that there's a lot of story, and he has that story to tell. So at this point, it is something that they've thought about. It's something that they've built out. And so judging from what they've teased just from season 1 alone, there's a lot. It's very lore heavy for sure. I mean, when you talk about the Mortis gods and those statues, what's shining beacon on the crest of that mountain is it's candy to me. All right, let's go.
Skywalker simply because it wasn't really his place to do so, or at least that's what the Force was telling him. Which sounds really stupid when you consider how far out of the way it goes to bring in Anakin. If anything, if Qui-Gon Jinn was actually really...
5 credits. Use this money to reopen one of the temples.
Shout out to Gage for the $5 ramen drop. Use this money to reopen one of the temples. Okay, so SH4T is working now. I just had to kind of refresh the cache on that page. It's been a while. Appreciate that ramen drop, especially for helping test it. I don't think that it's showing up on this screen as a pop-up, but it should have.
But we can at least hear it now.
Yeah,
That's the more important part.
Thank you, Gage.
Serious about training Anakin, he needed to bring the mom along as well. Now, Qui-Gon Jinn would die before Anakin's training actually starts, and that responsibility is then passed down to his apprentice, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan is a far more traditional Jedi. He oftentimes criticized his own master for acting against the Council's will. But here's the question, why did the Jedi only agree to train Anakin after the death of Qui-Gon Jinn? Was it because they wanted to honor a dying man's last wishes, or was it because the Order was afraid of Anakin and wanted to keep him in their sights? No.
I think the most honest answer would be...
because they got more information.
Well, also, again, it's a vote from the council. We know that Yoda disagreed with the training of it.
Yeah.
I'd imagine some of them did feel like they were honoring Qui-Gon's, last wish. Maybe some of them had very genuine and sincere thoughts changing their minds. It's not really it's not an easy task to be like, okay, so the entire council decided this afterwards.
Yeah, I think one thing I think people don't realize is that it was Qui-Gon and Yoda that really got at each other. Um, not so much everyone else. And I know we like to think of Mace Windu as the hard ass, but he considered Qui-Gon considered Mace Windu his best friend. You know, so I think that's funny. I I can definitely see a world where um people, I mean, Qui-Gon was invited to be on the council, and that was not so long from this event. So they all super valued his opinion and what he said and what he thought. And also, I think the biggest thing is that Qui-Gon ended up being right. Listen, I know they were wrong when they didn't believe that Maul was a Sith Lord. Which, funny enough, in the expanded universe, like until 2012, everyone believed Maul wasn't a Sith Lord. He was just a dark side assassin that's being used, but that's a whole different topic. I don't think that they're wrong to want more proof than a like 8-second encounter to say that this person is a Sith Lord. And at the end, when they saw what he could do, they realized that he was right and that there's something bigger going on, and that's why they accepted his training. That's what I see. But I can definitely see them thinking of him as like an honorary member of the council because he was invited to join.
Yes. Yoda disagreed with the treating of it. Listen, you say tomato, I say non yuan November. Sometimes we all misspeak.
No matter what the reason was, they significantly bent the rules to allow this 9-year-old into the Order. The problem is, after that, they still treated him like any other Jedi recruit who had no memories of their family. And that just doesn't work for Anakin Skywalker because he's developed a very close bond with his mom, and like everyone knows, you don't remove a kid from their mom at the age of 9 because that causes a lot of problems down the road. The Jedi, again, were way too dogmatic. They already bent one rule. They should have been able to create an entire new playbook for Anakin.
Okay, well, I also just have to push back because there are plenty of people who don't have their moms when they're 9 who don't turn into like Sith Lords. Right? You could be adopted, you could be in foster care, your parent could have died, they could have divorced. There's so many different permeations of this that I hate when people are like, well, it's different than how I was raised, therefore it is bad. Yeah. Or it is an excuse for them to be bad.
Sharpshot611 says, why as a whole do light side powers suck compared to dark side powers? Because the light is about life.
Because electricity is cool.
Yeah. So
listen, the coolest powers are usually inherently destructive. Let's be honest.
Yes. And the light side is inherently restorative. Yeah. Or shielding. They have a lot more shielding than they do in the dark side. Also, another cool perk of the light side, they get to become Force ghosts.
A really cool thing is that they don't look like meth addicts.
That's true.
They keep their teeth and their skin, and they don't look like ball sacks.
The chosen one, after all, and it would have been incredibly simple at this point to deploy a Jedi courier to Tatooine that could save Shmi from slavery. But
Sabine? Oh, not Sabine. Sabe was sent.
Yeah, and she couldn't find her because she was already gone and freed from slavery. But like the other, the big elephant in the room is that Anakin fell because of his attachment. You bring Shmi to Coruscant. Palpatine is still there. He's still going to try and groom this kid, and he's going to kidnap his mom, and then he's going to turn to the dark side. Like, you're not kicking the can down the road isn't the answer.
Yeah.
No, that doesn't happen. And it's mainly because since their first meeting with Anakin, the High Council has detected a lot of fear in Anakin over the loss of his mother. This was the entire reason why Anakin was disqualified in his first hearing with the Jedi. The Jedi were wrong to do this because, like, it's normal for 9-year-olds to be attached to their parents. The healthy thing here is to have Anakin grow up and gradually become less dependent on his mother.
No, the healthy thing to do would have not to treat him.
Yeah.
The healthy thing to do would have been like recognizing that fear. You know, I do have to push back on Tech's, or I don't know his name, but Generation Tech's posit here. It was not wrong for them to point out his fears of loss and his thoughts lingering on his mother. The mistake here was to take him despite that, because it would have been healthier for them to just be like, I think this isn't the path for you, you know. And we often want it to happen because that's what Anakin wants to happen. He's like he wants to become the Jedi, right? I forget what Anakin says in response to the first decision. You know, am I not going to be a Jedi? Like, I don't get where he's coming from here when he says it was unhealthy for them to point out the things he was contending with. And I don't know if someone like Anakin grows up and gradually becomes less dependent on their mother, if that mother is in constant danger from the person that threatens the galaxy entire.
I mean, obviously he's not. You know how many times Palpatine tried to kill Padme? That's like a running thing. Like, Shmi would just be in. I don't know. It's. Again, it's one of those things where you say, oh, it would have been fixed if this happened, but you didn't think about, like, Palpatine. The ramifications of that, you know.
None. So far, and with all respect to Generation Tech, so far, these two takes that we're hearing from both our prior reaction to the Mace Windu video and this, is that none of them account for Palpatine. Like, talking about Anakin and how it would have been healthy for him to grow up with his mother, they don't account for what Palpatine would have done in response. And we have a good example of that. You know, he tries to put Padme in danger, and he tries to seed in Anakin's mind that Padme is always in danger. And so, like, his dreams and his visions are riddled with the one that he cares about is in danger all the time. And as we see in Revenge of the Sith, that fear and concern is at its highest when Padme is not in danger. She's literally in her apartment being pregnant. And he's throwing himself down the dark path to save her. And then what does he do next? Chokes her out. So what's the following question? Was it worth it?
Now, when you're in your 30s and your 40s, you shouldn't be super attached to your parent at that point. You should be able to go out and do your own thing. But what the Jedi wanted instead was to sever that connection immediately, which is obviously the least healthy thing you can do. The Jedi just don't have empathy or understand how living beings operate.
This is another case of, like, assuming motivations. Because
the Jedi are full of empathy, and they all are human beings with, like.
But they don't want to sever that connection. That's the whole point of them saying he's too old. because they want to start their training when they before they have formed that attachment to begin with. It's not like if they wanted to sever those connections, they would kidnap them and be Sith.
Yeah. Actually, the Sith want to sever those connections for those reasons. Yeah. We need to keep going.
Completely apathetic and emotionally numb. It's almost like the Jedi don't understand what a child is, and that's maybe why they send so many of them headfirst into battle. I mean,
No, they send a lot of them headfirst into battle during this time because of the Clone Wars and because of the position they're put in by Palpatine. Like, this is not something the Jedi would be... This is not a position the Jedi would be in by default. We keep on forgetting that the prequels is manufactured in a way to bring about their downfall. The Jedi were not quick to war. They were put into war.
Which I think the smartest thing that Palpatine did was turn Dooku to the dark side.
Yeah.
Because that practically guaranteed the Jedi's involvement in the Clone Wars.
completely nuts. The Jedi could have totally found a position for Shmi Skywalker in the temple. You know, she could have even, like cleaned the cafeteria for all I care. I mean, just have her there so Anakin can occasionally say hi to her. This way, Anakin, in this new environment, could have had a warm and nurturing figure in his life to protect and advise him. Instead,
that's where it falls apart, is to protect. Because you can't be everywhere all at once. During the Clone Wars especially, when he's out fighting battles, he'd be... His thoughts would linger on her mother. Because even if Padme is in her apartment, she's in danger. So what happens when Shmi is in the picture and Palpatine's constantly trying to take her life? She's in danger. He's got two people to worry about now.
They bring Shmi in. She just becomes a tool for Palpatine to turn Anakin faster.
Yeah.
Anakin had no one in the Jedi Temple. Even Obi-Wan Kenobi was quick to judge him and always trying to shape him into the Jedi that he knew Anakin could become. But again, all the Jedi were treating Anakin as an adult when he was just a 10-year-old, 9-year-old boy who was extremely frightened and alone.
Who treated him like an adult? Where does that come from?
Absolutely no one treated him like an adult. And see, this is the problem, because now we have a 10-year jump. No, more than that.
To when he is an adult.
Yeah. we go from him tagging along with Qui-Gon, and Qui-Gon treating him like a kid, saying, "Stay in this cockpit. Don't touch anything." To him accidentally blowing up a control ship and, celebrating in the victory over the Trade Federation on Naboo, to the next movie where he is an adult.
I'm also going to go out on a limb here and say that he doesn't know what it means to practice non-attachment, which is what they're trying to teach him.
Yeah.
I had someone in my comment section who, and this is going to be my new litmus test. I asked him, do you know what it means to love something or someone without attachment? And this person responds with, I'm going to just leave this here. Love is an emotional attachment. I was like, okay, so you don't know. So you don't know what it means to practice non-attachment. Like, mind you, I literally practice non-attachment in my own life. I don't know.
I think we all do. See, this is the thing. It's a good litmus test because...
I actually think it's the healthiest way to live.
It's a good litmus test because, you have to... There's two kinds of love. There's unconditional love, and there's attachment love. The unconditional part is where there's no strings attached. Right? It's like an email attachment. You have to actually go in to detach it. You know? What he's thinking of, which is something that the Jedi do encourage, the Jedi have a name for, is bonds. Emotional bonds. But they're not attached. They're just tethers. You know?
Yeah, something is attached because you can't let it go.
Exactly.
That's the whole purpose. And the other thing that's funny is people, when Anakin says the whole thing to Padme about how the Jedi are actually encouraged to love, they're like, "Oh, he was just twisting it in order to riz her up," and you're like, "No, that's what the Jedi teach." You know, like this. That's literally the golden rule, right? Love your neighbor, love thy neighbor as yourself. That's encouraging someone to love unconditionally. That's what the Jedi teach.
So yes, I do chalk it up to Hayden having the creepiest smile as he says it. But he is legitimately espousing true Jedi teaching. And that's why Padme responds the way she does. You have grown.
Actually, Padme only responds positively to him when he is reciting Jedi stuff.
Exactly.
If you notice, sometimes we need to put ourselves aside and do our duty. Like he says something like that, and to her as well. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah.
The Jedi created their own monster by doing all of this to Anakin. His fall to the dark side is completely their fault.
No.
That is objectively incorrect.
Palpatine just exploited their deficiency. And
No. Not at all. Palpatine created the deficiency. Palpatine is
Intentionally.
Palpatine is the one creating the distrust. He's creating that distance.
when Shmi Skywalker needed her son or the Jedi or the Republic the most, no one was there to save her. I mean, you had Klieg Lars, who actually did save Shmi from slavery, but he lacked the abilities to protect her from the Tusken Raiders that lived in the area.
And the onus isn't on the Jedi as a whole to take up that banner.
And this becomes one of those things. Oh, it's the Jedi's fault that the Tuskens attacked the Lars homestead, and you're like, no, how?
Yeah, this completely absolves any external actors from accountability in any regard. The Sand
Just because
People.
you have the ability to stop something from happening does not mean you caused it to happen.
Yeah, just like you said, it's not the Jedi's fault that the Sand People kidnapped Shmi.
Of course, goes back to the failures of the Jedi and the Republic to bring stability to the Outer Rim, which is, just another factor in all of this. The Republic also tolerated the Hutt's rule in areas like Tatooine because it had become a place for Republic criminals to flee to. As long as these criminals weren't coming into Republic space and, wreaking havoc on Coruscant, the Republic just didn't bother. They looked the other way. The separation of Shmi Skywalker and Anakin Skywalker.
Did they look the other way, or is it just a different place? Like there are things that go on in,
Well,
I don't know, in the Congo. Are we looking the other way, or is that just another place?
it's another place. But another thing that we have to clarify here is that just because it is outside of Republic space doesn't mean that they're simply ignoring it.
That's also very true.
It is also Hutt space. So if there's any effort by the Republic at all to wrest authority from the Hutts, then you have war with the Hutts.
Yeah, that is another thing that's not being considered, because the Hutts are considered lawless, right? I mean, because they largely are, but they still have their system,
And they have their own fleet. They are powerful. And this is, and I only say that because it's important.
It's different.
It's important to establish those lines because we can't just fly into another country's space. It's their airspace. And there would be diplomatic repercussions.
But what if they have oil?
Then we have to go to war. It's that simple. You know?
Yeah, we can't just like blow up boats.
And see, this it all comes down to people putting the entire onus on the Jedi by virtue of the Republic. But nobody calls into question Palpatine's dominion. They don't call into question Hutt's space or anything else that is keeping the Republic or keeping any other agents or entities from coming in and intervening. Right? There's a corporate sector.
Also, I mean, a great example is Circa Corps, right?
Yeah.
Slavery was outlawed, and so they started to reclassify so that they could still keep slaves, and then that becomes a whole. I mean, yeah.
But we even see it in Andor. CorpSec is its own security. They police their own space.
Phineas McCormick says, saying it's the Jedi's fault while Palpatine is on screen is wild. And I don't know, man. I'm always just like, how do we get here? The movie tells us who's the bad guy.
It's symptomatic of the larger failings of the organization, which have become much more focused on larger macro and galactic affairs and less on the basics, the fundamentals. Like
that I agree with
slavery
100%.
Keeping children with their parents.
That I
when I look at someone like Shmi Skywalker and young Anakin, they are amongst the purest characters in all of Star Wars. They literally have nothing, not even their own freedom. But when strangers arrive on their doorstep, they don't hesitate at all to help. And I don't think Anakin or Shmi did this out of some selfish desire to be saved. It was just genuine altruism. Sometimes the people who have the least, who struggle the most for just basic things, really have the most empathy for others in need.
He was such a pure
These
kid.
two are exactly the type of people you want to protect. These are the type of people the Jedi cannot let down. But what does Qui-Gon Jinn do? He secretly runs some tests on Anakin's blood, lies to his mother that it's just a standard health checkup, and then becomes infatuated about Anakin's midichlorians and wants to use him in some epic battle between the dark and light side. Qui-Gon Jinn becomes so fixated.
What? Wait,
no. See, this is another case of people thinking that the characters are watching the movies with us.
that was just a wild turn at the end.
I know. It's
What is
literally
this, supernatural?
he literally meets Anakin trying to solve a dispute with the Trade Federation and Naboo. There is no war. Even from the light side and the darkness. Like, the Sith are extinct, have been extinct for a millennium. That's when he meets Anakin. And he is infatuated with this notion of the Chosen One and bringing balance to the Force. There is no war between light and dark right now. And then when he's about to leave Tatooine, he gets attacked by a Sith, and that's when things get kicked into high gear. He's not taking Anakin for this reason. Anakin's just leaving with him as it happens. Okay, Generation Tech, if you happen to come across our reaction, we'd love to have you on the show.
Yeah,
talk
that'd be
about
great
this.
conversations.
But as it stands, there's a lot of conjecture and assumptions in this video that is either wrong or assumed, and in which case we have the counter to it. But we would love to have a conversation with you about this.
On what Anakin can do for him, that he completely ignores the young boy's needs. Anakin is good-natured, but
They don't.
So
he wants to
what-
become a Jedi.
What line or quote or in what movie or book or comic are you referring to when you say he's only thinking of what Anakin can do for him.
And he is ignoring the young boy's needs. Quite literally, Anakin says, I want to become a Jedi. And when Qui-Gon asks Anakin, he's like, oh, please, Mom, can I become a Jedi? Can I?
Oh, no. Qui-Gon doesn't even ask Anakin. Qui-Gon asks Shmi, and Shmi asks Anakin.
Yeah. What's up, ND Wise Guy? What's going on, everyone? We're just reacting to another reason why the Jedi failed by Generation Tech, and we're finding that although it is very respectful and
it's a great video.
It's
it's
a good
just
video.
some fundamentals are off, and then when the fundamentals are off, then you know what I mean.
Everything suffers for it.
It's like if you're flying a plane and you're like 2 degrees off, like you're gonna miss Cleveland entirely.
He's also naive and he's vulnerable because he is a child. He agrees to risk his life, risk his pod racer to raise enough money to help the Jedi repair a ship. And how is Anakin rewarded? He's removed from his mother with no promise of ever seeing her again.
He's not removed. He literally chooses to go. He wants to go. He asks. And then he goes back to his mother, and his mother is saying, go, Anakin. This is your destiny. Don't look back. How does the person you're trying to be empathetic to understand this more than you?
Also, funnily enough, Anakin's first lesson in non-attachment comes from his mom.
Exactly. Don't look back.
You can't stop change from happening more than you can stop the sun from setting. You know, like.
But she knew when she told
understood.
him that.
She understood the assignment.
She knew. She knew when he asked. Because when she says "Don't look back," that's in response to him saying, "Will I ever see you again?"
Anakin has every right to hate the Jedi as much as he did. He has every right to try to destroy the Jedi. I don't actually blame him for doing this. Yeah.
That's where you lose me. Because he does not have every right to murder all of the children, the younglings, and everybody in the Jedi Order that was ancillary, at best, to Anakin's upbringing.
And you know what? I mean, I don't know. This is actually one of the things I enjoyed about Obi-Wan. And it's Reva, you know, and I know she got a lot of hate. We all know why. Yeah. but she was an innocent child, and who Anakin took everything away from her. Like, she actually had the right to, but this, I don't know, I feel like her story alone means you can't absolve Anakin of his wrongdoing, because if he had something done to him and then he does worse to other people, like, he should know, you know?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this video was, it had its moments, but it loses me when it says you don't blame Anakin for destroying the Jedi. Like, this reeks of Anakin glaze. This reeks of Star Wars theory. Anakin could do no wrong. And it's all wrong.
Yeah, he was manipulated by Palpatine, but it's not like the Jedi ever really did much for him. It's not even.
What?
It's not like they did much for him.
What? Have we come to that point where we're like, oh, the Jedi, like, I suppose they didn't really do much except for raised him, trained him, cultivated him, and gave him,
fed him, trained,
a life away from being a slave.
free him from slavery.
But disregard that because they didn't do the same for Shmi and they didn't end slavery as a whole. Oh, no.
They literally free him from slavery, and he says they haven't done much for him. Hey, man, Abraham Lincoln didn't do much for black people.
Let's just finish this.
Like his life improved
about
drastically
2
when
minutes
he went
left.
from being a slave to Watto to being a slave for the Jedi. He went from one set of strict rules to another set of strict rules that governed every aspect of his life.
No. Again, we just make this quick. He could have left. There's no chains on him at all. He was thinking of leaving.
He's quite literally not a slave. And having a strict set of rules is like
Anakin is
slavery to like this person has strict parents, so that's really the same thing. And you're like, no, it's not.
Anakin was a slave to his idealism of what he was as a Jedi. He believed in his own legend. He complained to Padme all the time about not being the most powerful Jedi.
He was a slave to his own ego.
Exactly.
Anakin realized that the Jedi Order had been built on lies. Like, what does bringing balance to the Force even mean? It's nonsensical.
It means
when you're seeing people.
It means protecting the life cycle, right? It's protecting the Force.
People suffer on a daily basis out there. How can the Jedi...
Okay, so he doesn't understand non-attachment. He doesn't understand balance in the Force. He doesn't understand the role of the Jedi as it pertains to the entire galaxy.
Which makes his conclusions make sense, you know. But if your plane takes off and you're off by a few degrees, you're gonna miss your destination. You will never
or if
get
this
there.
was your destination all along. Because we often deal with people who have a conclusion and work backwards to form a narrative that reaches that conclusion, rather than looking at every single angle and letting that inform where you go from there. But like this video ended completely wrong. Entirely. When your entire video, not entire, but when your video has the sentence, yeah, Palpatine manipulated him, but there's no but. The manipulation set him on the path. With, like, you remove Palpatine and he deals with some strict monastic upbringing, but that's it. There's no war. There's no manipulation. He just has a regular life like any other Jedi. And I swear, the next person that like completely just puts the entire onus on the Jedi Order because of Anakin, I'm going to lose it. Because for thousands of years, the Jedi have had peace, relative balance, and they've lost only 20 people to the dark side. That means over thousands of generations and hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of Jedi, they were just normal.
Yeah.
And we get to the prequels with Anakin.
What I hear.
And we get to the prequels with Anakin, and suddenly everybody else is the problem.
Here's what I hear. Is you have 10,000 kids and you tell all of them, don't touch the stove, it's hot. And none of them touch the stove. Because you're like, if you touch the stove, you're going to get burned. Don't touch the stove. And then Anakin comes and he touches the stove. And you're like, it's your fault because you should have taught him how to touch the stove. You should have let him touch the hot stove, but not let him get burned. And you're like, that's not a thing. How do we... I don't know, man. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
We say this way too often. We understand and we recognize the faults, the flaws, and the mistakes of the Jedi Order. But when you reach a point where everything Anakin did was justified, including genocide and murder, because the Jedi didn't treat him well, and that's coming from your point of view. You've lost it.
Jedi be the guardians of the Republic when they're unable to even help the most vulnerable people in the galaxy? Or in Shmi Skywalker's case, they just plain ignored her. And what happens next is, well, Shmi gets to die the most horrific death possible, and Anakin, well, he murders all the Tusken Raiders that did this to his mother, and then he falls to the dark side. And is he wrong? Like, wouldn't you do the same thing for your mom if something horrible like that happened?
I think we've reached the end of this video.
That's the whole point!
We've reached the end of this video. All respect to Generation Tech. As Gage says in the chat, you had us in the first half, but it's really has gone downhill. And I'm being very charitable here, because you've now just explicitly blamed the Jedi for the Tuskens kidnapping his mom and subsequently causing her to die. Let's go back to the main screen. And I'm going to move us to the bonus stage because I'm no longer there. Hold on.
I like the screen better, though. Okay.
Anyways.
Yeah, so we can do a quick bonus. But, yeah, anyone in the chat, what are your thoughts? And do you guys want to talk about anything else before we wrap up?
Yeah. I do have to peacefully and softly leave at 8. So we have 7 minutes. I just, when you have the Phantom Menace that caused the war, caused another war, genocided planets, caused someone to fall to the dark side.
Menace.
When you have that person in the same conversation, and the only accounting you have of that is, sure, he manipulated him, but you've missed the plot. You've lost it completely.
Well, sure, he's the Phantom Menace, but the real Phantom Menace are the people who are trying to stop him.
Jeez. Sorry if I missed this, but spoiler-free thoughts on Master of Evil. Have not finished it. We'll finish it by next week.
Hopefully we'll...
am I wrongfully making that promise for you?
Oh, no. We could... I plan to finish it by next week. I just wonder if next week is still too soon to talk about it.
Oh, you know what? Next week is Thanksgiving.
Also, what is our planning? Yeah, it's Black Friday.
It's Black Friday. Also, I did just find out
people just call it Friday.
I did just find out on Wednesday that we are celebrating on Friday, so we won't be having DYAD next week. Apologies to everyone, but when we return, we will be back for round 5. We'll be back for round 5 of the DYAD Trivia League, which will feature Gage, Phidias, Archive Redacted.
Gratitude.
谢谢先辈. But yeah, DYAD will be celebrating Thanksgiving next week. I just want to kind of go off on the ending of that video, to be honest. Like, it's just wrong. There were some moments in the video where there was sage words and wisdom, but it ultimately just kind of spiraled from there.
Well, okay, so again,
speaking of which, B Matrix is the one that requested it. So appreciate you, B Matrix.
non-attachment is a very specific belief system, and it's like you can love someone deeply without making your happiness entirely dependent on them or your relationship status, right? It is observing your thoughts and feelings without trying to fixate on or control them. You know, that's what it is. But if you hear attachment and don't understand that it is a very specific and separate belief, people will naturally think it just means emotional attachment. So you can't be emotionally attached to anyone, which I don't know why anyone believes this, because all Jedi we've ever seen are all very attached to each other emotionally. But if you make that connection, well, then you're right. That would be an unhealthy way to live. And if they're forcing this unhealthy thing on Anakin, then they're right. That's why you would turn out to be a monster. But again, it's just being fundamentally off on the core principle of what the Jedi teach.
It's also off on the core
control from there.
On the core methodology of the Jedi, because no one is forcing this on Anakin. You know, we know from, was it the comics or the Obi-Wan Kenobi book? The Anakin was going to leave, and Obi-Wan was going to join him.
Yeah. By the way, you're not a slave if you can quit anytime you want.
Exactly.
That's so dumb. I don't.
But you know, the biggest thing that
just one of those sayings that people say that's like a vibe.
The biggest thing that I do want to bring to light about the ending of this video is that none of it is justified. You know, Anakin is within his right to feel the way he feels, because it's his feelings. You can't really be like, you're wrong. But his response, destroying the Jedi, betraying Mace Windu, genociding planets as Darth Vader, murdering kids in the temple, none of that is justified. Blaming the Jedi for the Tuskens kidnapping the mother because they didn't really free her is like blaming the Jedi for any other slave that goes through hardship because they didn't free them.
It's like blaming the Jedi because there was a car accident and they didn't stop it. Like I don't
stopped
even know where
one
to go from there.
Or they stopped one, but there was another one down the street that happened.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just really strange. And yeah, Gage, like you said, and like you said, Pep, Anakin was going to leave in the Anakin and Obi-Wan comic. Yeah. Anakin knew he could leave at any point in time. He knew that his master could almost left. He knows that his master's master. I'm sorry. He knows that Dooku left, and then his Padawan left. Like, he knew he could leave at any point in time. That's not even an argument here. You know what I mean?
Ahsoka practiced non-attachment by leaving.
Even after she left, yeah.
Everyone around Anakin is an example of a healthy Jedi.
Here's the thing, though, is...
Except for Ponkrell.
Is what the Jedi were trying to teach him is actually how not to be a slave to his own emotions and desires, and he didn't want to do that. And if he ultimately became a slave to those things, right? Because that's what non-attachment is not being a slave to your emotions, not being a slave to your personal, your
desires,
physical things that you have, right? To your thoughts on the future. Anakin chose to be a slave to them, and the dark side made him a slave to them. When he's like, you don't know the power of the dark side, I must obey my master. It's because he was a slave to those things, and they were trying to... Even Luke was like, let go of your hate, right? Let go and you'll be free. Just let go.
Lest we make the same mistake as this video and other videos like it, it's also Palpatine's fault. Because I would venture to guess that... Are you just really still? Okay. I would venture to guess that you remove Palpatine, you remove the Clone Wars, and Anakin just has you know, a rough go at it in the first few years of becoming a Jedi. And that's it. But because of Palpatine, because of the war, he had to interact with Padme a lot. He was in the Senate. He had to bodyguard her. He had to spend time with her. He fell in love with her. But had he been just practicing, you know, Jedi philosophy and teachings and just going off on missions, you know, helping other planets, there was no Clone Wars. There's no Palpatine whispering in his ears that no, you can't trust them. Then he turns out okay, in my opinion. But Palpatine is a large swath of why Anakin is a slave, because he's reinforcing that slave mentality.
That being said, you gotta go dash.
I postponed it by 20 minutes, so it's still a soft exit, but I do want to address Sharp Shot. You can always blame the Jedi when you believe, because the light side, the dark side exists. And I know their stance on it. They're not actually entirely blaming the Jedi, but the Force is the light and the dark. The Force is life and death and rebirth. But it's thrown out of balance because the Sith exist to dominate the dark side and try to control it. That is the thing that most people misunderstand about the Force. The Force exists in a cycle from life, light, death, dark, and rebirth. And the Sith don't throw it out of balance because they're of the dark side. They throw it out of balance because they try to control the dark side. And that's why the Sith are in balance. Right? So, yes, the light side exists, the dark side exists. Life and death occur naturally. But it is the Sith that throws it out of balance and tries to force the dark side to do its will. And that's what makes them the ultimate villain in the story of the Force. But yeah, I have not read Rogue Planet. Time travel.
Ooh, I read Rogue Planet, but it's been a long time. Like, it's been like 12 years since I read that book.
That being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I will say again, next week, DYAD will be taking a break for Thanksgiving, so I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving or a wonderful holiday, however you choose to celebrate it.
Merry capitalism.
Merry capitalism.
Buy some Black Friday stuff.
Oh yeah, that's true. I gotta get the kids stuff. As it is when you are surrounded by kids and adults that just don't really need anything anymore. But yeah, that's it. On to the next one.
For Light and for Life.
We are all the Dyad.
And may Gage do very well in his first appearance in the Dyad Trivia Tournament.
Ooh, I feel like that's biased. I'm going to say good luck, Phidias, and Archive Redacted.
Oh, sorry, Phidias, you're going to be in it. I'm only talking about people who are here. Archive Redacted isn't
just
here right
good
now.
luck to everybody.
Good luck, everyone.
On December 5th. December 5th is our round 5 of the Trivia League. And that's when everybody's coming on to compete. But happy holidays. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Peace.